Chapter 44-43. Old Qin, this kid's character are not bad. Let's not kill him. Looking at Ji Xiaowu, who was lying in the void in despair, he couldn't help but feel compassion. Qin Feiyang looked at Ji Xiaowu, his eyes flickering. Everyone understood the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Now they had killed Ji Daxiong and Ji Changming. More importantly, these two were Ji Xiaowu's close relatives. If they kept Ji Xiaowu alive, he might become a source of trouble in the future. Although Ji Xiaowu's character was indeed very good now, people's character would change when faced with great changes. It might even be distorted. Madman said, "Don't worry, if he really becomes a source of trouble in the future, I will personally get rid of him." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. Madman looked at Ji Xiaowu and said indifferently, "Kid, take care of yourself. Life is not easy to come by. Only by living can you have a chance to welcome a better life." Hearing this, Ji Xiaowu looked up at Madman in a daze. "Goodbye, young man." Madman turned around and raised his arm. Without looking back, he waved and smiled before striding out of the Star River. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf also turned and left. "Ji Xiaowu, this chance to live is really rare. You must cherish it." The Sea Lion Demon King looked at Ji Xiaowu and said meaningfully. Then he turned and left. It was indeed not easy to survive in the hands of Qin Feiyang and the others. However, Ji Xiaowu wouldn't understand this sentence now. Only when he learned the true identity of Qin Feiyang and the others would he understand how lucky he was today. Outside the Star River, Qin Feiyang turned to look at Sea Lion and asked, "Where is Dong Hanzong's base?" "It is said to be in Hanzongqing." Sea Lion thought for a moment and said, "Hanzongqing? Dong Hanzong. Why are the names so similar?" Madman and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. "I heard that Hanzongqing is named after Dong Hanzong." The Sea Lion Demon King smiled. "How arrogant." Madman and the white-eyed wolf sneered. "Do you have the coordinates of Hanzongqing?" Qin Feiyang asked. "No. This prince has not been to every place." The Sea Lion Demon King shook his head. "What? You don't even know Hanzongqing? Are you a monster king for nothing?" Madman said with disdain. "Big brother, I have always lived in the Kunpeng Sea region. I rarely come to the continent, okay?" The Sea Lion Demon King was powerless. Madman said, "Then go find Ji Xiaowu and get the coordinates of Han Sek City." "Why me? I'm not an errand boy." Sea Lion glared at Madman angrily. "Yo, your temper has risen, hasn't it?" Madman stared at the Sea Lion Demon King maliciously. No. Let's talk things over. It's my honor to run errands for you three big brothers. I'll go right away." The Sea Lion Demon Monarch chuckled and hurriedly turned around and ran into the Star River. This guy really knows how to steer with the wind. Madman shook his head and smiled bitterly. Only such a person can live longer. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Soon, the Sea Lion Demon Monarch was about to come to the coordinates. The four of them opened a space-time tunnel and directly descended above Han Sek City. "It's quite big." Madman glanced at Han Sek City and said in surprise, "Of course. After all, this is Dong Hanzong's base." Dong Hanzong is not only the strongest of the younger generation, but even the older generation has to retreat when they see him. Therefore, many people come here, hoping to get his favor and appreciation. Basically, as long as he values someone, they will have a promising future. The Sea Lion Demon Monarch explained. "I really didn't expect him to have such influence in the Central Dynasty." Madman shook his head. But thinking about it carefully, it's reasonable. With the universe domain, even big shots like the Kunpeng, the Dragon God, and Dong Qingyuan wouldn't be his match without a peak dominator divine weapon. This is enough to show his strength and status in the Central Dynasty, Qin Feiyang said. Madman and the white-eyed wolf nodded. No. But suddenly, the Sea Lion Demon Monarch's pupils shrank. "What's wrong?" The three of them were shocked. The Sea Lion Demon Monarch scanned the city and said in a deep voice, "Look, why is there no one in Han Sek City?" Empty. Qin Feiyang and the other two were stunned as they scanned the entire city. Before they could react, there really wasn't a single person in such a huge city. What was going on? Could it be that they knew we would come, so they moved in advance? But in such a short time, it's impossible to move all of them. From the time they killed Dong Hanzong and the other two until now, it had only been a short while. Even if he had wasted some time killing Ji Zhangming, it hadn't been that long. How could it have become an empty city? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said in a deep voice, "There is a way to move everyone in a very short time." What way? The three of them were suspicious. Spatial divine item. As long as we put everyone into the spatial divine item, we can evacuate Hansek City as quickly as possible. But it doesn't make sense. The people of Hansek City didn't know we were coming at all. Why would they move in advance? Wait. Could it be that Ji Xiao tipped them off? The white-eyed wolf was surprised. It can't be him. We got the coordinates from him and immediately rushed to Hansek City. If he tipped them off, even if everyone here entered someone's spatial divine item, they wouldn't be able to move in time. Madman shook his head. That makes sense. The white-eyed wolf nodded. What was going on? Clang. At the next moment, a sword light swept out from the city below, tearing through the void and the earth as it charged towards Qin Feiyang and the other three. The four of them were shocked and hurriedly looked over. They saw a golden sword light that emitted a sharp light that could destroy the world. Facing this sword light, even Qin Feiyang and the other two could feel a fatal crisis. Not to mention the Sea Lion Demon King. His entire body was instantly shrouded in the shadow of death. And its speed was quite fast. It arrived in an instant. Qin Feiyang and the other three didn't even have a chance to fight back. Get out of the way. Without daring to hesitate, Madman pushed away Qin Feiyang and the other two, and the sword chi rushed over. Boom. Blood instantly dyed the sky red. Senior brother. Little Madman. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf roared. Whoosh. A wisp of evil aura swept out in front of Qin Feiyang. Go. At the same time, a thought was transmitted into Qin Feiyang's mind. It was Madman's voice. That's right. This wisp of evil aura was Madman's remnant soul. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent Madman's remnant soul to the Black Tortoise realm. Then he swept up the white-eyed wolf and the Sea Lion Demon King, activated the dual will of the heavens in instant time, and left without looking back. Where do you think you're going? Accompanied by a cold voice, space-time passages appeared in all directions, and one figure after another kept coming out. These people, men and women, old and young, wore different clothes, but without exception, all of them had grasped the will of the heavens. So many people came to encircle us? Why does it feel like a trap? The white-eyed wolf's face couldn't help but turn pale. That's right. This is a trap. Before he finished speaking, another voice sounded. And this voice came from the broken Hansek City. Qin Feiyang and the other two turned their heads, and saw a golden figure step into the sky. His face was blurry, and he wore a golden dragon robe and held a battle sword in his hand. The battle sword was about 1 meter long. Its entire body shone with golden light, as if it was made of gold. The sword hilt had a golden dragon engraved on it, and it emitted a terrifying sharpness. This is... Qin Feiyang and the other two stared at the golden battle sword, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. The aura of this battle sword had far surpassed a pinnacle sovereign weapon. Obviously, this was a legendary dominator divine weapon. This scene made Qin Feiyang and the other two's mood fall to the bottom. Legendary grade dominator grade divine weapons were no joke. A mid-level sovereign weapon was equivalent to 10 low-level sovereign weapons. A high-level sovereign weapon was equivalent to 100 low-level sovereign weapons. A pinnacle sovereign weapon was equivalent to 1,000 low-level sovereign weapons. A legendary sovereign weapon that surpassed the pinnacle sovereign weapon was equivalent to 10,000 low-level sovereign weapons. If one didn't have 3,000 incarnations, who could fight against a sovereign weapon of this level? Shua. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at the man in the dragon robe. Since it was a legendary sovereign weapon, wasn't this person the emperor of the Central Dynasty? That's right. He's the emperor of the Central Dynasty. The sovereign weapon in his hand is called the Emperor's Sword. It's the only legendary sovereign weapon in the Central Dynasty. The Sea Lion Archfiend King said. Emperor's Sword, Emperor. Qin Feiyang murmured. What should we do? The people who are coming to surround us are all experts with will of the heavens from the top 10 families of the Central Dynasty. And from the looks of it, there are more people on the way. The Sea Lion Archfiend King panicked. Experts with will of the heavens from the top 10 families. Qin Feiyang and the White-Eyed Wolf looked at the people coming to attack them. These people were all dressed in luxurious clothes, and each of them had an extraordinary aura. I didn't expect you to be able to escape from the Kunping Sea region without anyone noticing. Unfortunately, you won't be able to escape today. An old man in purple spoke. His will of the heavens erupted, and various ultimates appeared. Break out of the encirclement. Since the Emperor and the top 10 families already know that we are in Hanzhong City, then the 9th and 8th teams that are blocking the Kunping Sea region must have received the news as well. They will immediately come to support us. The White-Eyed Wolf said telepathically. They must not fight with these people, or they would be surrounded. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and looked at the Emperor. Although he had a lot of doubts, now was not the time to ask. Just as the White-Eyed Wolf said, they must break out of the encirclement immediately. Otherwise, they would be in a situation where there was only a slim chance of survival. Boom. 3,000 clones were activated. The law of life and death, the 6 supreme laws, and the dual will of the heavens erupted. The Emperor's pupils shrank when he saw this scene. Although this person was hateful, his strength was not to be underestimated. Even the Emperor's sword in his hand, which was a legendary sovereign weapon, could not compete with him. Chapter 44:44. At the same time, seeing this, the supreme experts of the 10 lineal families also looked a little flustered. Don't retreat. I have already informed the 9th and 8th teams of the Death God Army. They will be here soon to support. The Emperor said. That's right. We have already split our souls in advance. What are we afraid of? Even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we have to stop them. Someone from the 10 lineal families shouted. Right now, there were already more than 2,000 experts of the heavenly path who had rushed here. In other words, Qin Feiyang and the other two were surrounded by more than 2,000 experts of the heavenly path. Bang! Everyone immediately activated the will of the heavenly path, and the ultimate profound meaning. More than 2,000 people with more than 10,000 ultimate profound meanings. It was quite terrifying. However, Qin Feiyang did not take it to heart. He who had 2 wills of the heavenly path, and the ultimate profound meaning of the laws of life and death could completely crush them. True enough. When the 21,000 ultimate profound meanings of the 3,000 incarnations charged in all directions, it would be a devastating situation. The ultimate profound meaning of thousands of people of the 10 lineal families was as vulnerable as dead wood. So powerful. The power of the 2 wills of the heavenly path, and the ultimate profound meaning of the laws of life and death shocked everyone present. Bang. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang's ultimate profound meaning was to kill the Emperor and the 10 lineal families. If there were no accidents, he would definitely be able to kill his way out. However, there were always some things in the world that went against one's wishes. You are indeed very powerful, but you are still ants in the end. The Emperor smiled contemptuously, and a wave of origin energy rolled out from his body. That's right. It was not a wisp. Nor was it a wisp. It was a wisp of origin energy. This wisp of origin energy was like a torrent, sweeping in all directions. Wherever it went, Qin Feiyang's ultimate profound meaning, be it the laws of life and death or the 6 supreme laws, were instantly shattered like rotten wood. Damn you! The White-Eyed Wolf cursed. How could they fight with so much origin energy? The 9th team of the Death God Army is here to help. The 8th team of the Death God Army is here to help. Right at this moment, accompanied by an earth-shattering battle cry, space-time tunnels appeared one after another, and 20,000 members of the Death God Army poured out like a tide. It's over. It's all over. The Sea Lion Demon King looked at this scene in horror. The Emperor's sword, the origin energy, the supreme experts of the 10 great clans. Now, even the Death God Legion's 9th and 8th squads had rushed over. In the face of such a terrifying lineup, even if Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were heaven-defying, they would still die here today. Little Qinzi, what should we do? Not to mention the Sea Lion Demon King, even the white-eyed wolf was scared. Although Qin Feiyang still had the Eye of Heaven, and although he also had the fourth innate ability, it was definitely not enough to deal with the origin power in the hands of an emperor. Qin Feiyang's eyes were also extremely solemn. He transmitted his voice. I can feel it. The inner demons are also coming this way. Even if the inner demons come, they won't be able to help us. White-eyed wolf thought to himself. If he didn't have the origin energy, he might have been able to break out of the encirclement if he joined forces with the inner demons and big cousin. But now, the origin energy in the hands of the emperor could wipe out all the hope in their hearts. Suddenly, angry voices rang out one after another. So it was you, the Demon King, who took them out of the Kunpingxi region. Preposterous. How dare you betray our Scandinavia and betray His Majesty? The Sea Lion Demon King looked in the direction of the voices. It turned out that they were the dozen or so people he met on the coastline. Emperor, it's this Demon King who took Qin Feiyang and the other two out of the Kunpingxi region. We were all deceived by him. The dozen or so people immediately looked at the emperor and said. Hearing this, the emperor looked up at the Sea Lion Demon King. Although the emperor's expression couldn't be seen, the Sea Lion Demon King could clearly feel a terrifying murderous intent. This made him even more terrified. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath, turned to look at the emperor, and said, Since we're going to die, let's die with an explanation. How did you know we were coming to Hanzhong City? It's all thanks to Dong Hanzhong, the emperor said. Dong Hanzhong? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. Wasn't Dong Hanzhong already dead? How was he going to inform the emperor? The emperor waved his hand, and a purple-clothed young man immediately appeared beside him. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at the purple-clothed young man in disbelief. If this young man wasn't Dong Hanzhong, who else could it be? You must be very surprised, right? I knew it. Ha. Dong Hanzhong laughed, his eyes full of sarcasm. What the hell is going on? The white-eyed wolf clenched his hands. At that time, they clearly saw Dong Hanzhong die in the Star River with their own eyes. I have to admit that you guys are really powerful. You actually subdued the Demon King, and took you out of the Kunpingxi region without anyone knowing. If it weren't for my foresight, I would have died in your hands this time. Dong Hanzhong sneered. You left your divine soul in advance to save your life? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes. Dong Hanzhong nodded. How did you know that the people in Qingfeng City were us? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. I didn't know. Dong Hanzhong shook his head. You didn't know? If you didn't know, why did you leave your divine soul in advance? The white-eyed wolf's brows were tightly knitted. I think you misunderstood. I didn't leave my divine soul when I went to Qingfeng City, but when I learned that you broke into the Kunpingxi region. Because I know your strength, and I also know that you want to kill me. If I let you leave the Kunpingxi region, you will definitely find a chance to deal with me. So when I learned that you broke into the Kunpingxi region, I had already split my divine soul to avoid being caught off guard. But I didn't expect that it would come in handy. Dong Hanzhong smiled. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. It turned out that this person had already split his divine soul at that time. They didn't expect him to be so cautious. He was really a difficult guy to deal with. When you killed me in Qingfeng City, I knew at that time that you would definitely not expect that I left my divine soul in advance. Moreover, according to my understanding of you, you will definitely eliminate the root of the problem in Hanzhong City. So I told His Majesty to set up this trap and wait for you to walk into it. As it turned out, you really didn't let me down. You came to Hanzhong City so quickly. Dong Hanzhong sneered. Qin Feiyang looked at Dong Hanzhong with a complicated look in his eyes. Putting everything else aside, Dong Hanzhong's mind was really admirable. If he could recruit him, he would definitely become his right-hand man and the biggest threat to the Divine Kingdom. Unfortunately, this person was too loyal to the Divine Kingdom. Indeed, he didn't expect that Dong Hanzhong would split his divine soul in advance. Because on the surface, they were still trapped in the Kunpingxi region. And this time they dealt with Dong Hanzhong in the name of the monster king of the Kunpingxi region. So no one would expect that they were Qin Feiyang Madman Mo, and the golden-winged Wolf King. But they didn't expect that this person had already left his divine soul when he learned that they broke into the Kunpeng Sea region. And now they were caught off guard. Now you know. You can die in peace. Dong Hanzong sneered. Amazing. You are the most terrifying opponent I have ever faced in my life. Qin Feiyang nodded. Same to you. You are also the opponent I admire the most. Although we are in different positions, I am really happy to be able to fight with you for so long. Dong Hanzong laughed. But he couldn't hide the smug look on his face. Last time in the 4 great continents, he lost, and it was a crushing defeat. But this time he won. Furthermore, it was a complete victory. Swish. At this moment, 2 more figures appeared in the sky. Who else could it be but the inner demons and Lu Jiajin? Dong Hanzong raised his head and looked at the inner demons, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2, and said with a smile, "They are also here. You have no way to survive." So many people? After the inner demons and Lu Jiajin arrived, they glanced at everyone present, and their expressions were slightly stunned. The white-eyed wolf looked at Dong Hanzong and sneered secretly. "Little brother, little Jean, come and help us. Are you kidding me? There are so many people. How can we help you?" The inner demons thought. What's going on? Aren't they usually smart? Why are they surrounded by the emperor now? How about this? Let's challenge them. Maybe we can find a chance to help them escape. Lu Jiajin's eyes flashed, and he transmitted his voice to the inner demons. That's the only way. The inner demons sighed helplessly and looked at the emperor. This Qin Feiyang has tormented us in the 4 great continents. I can't take this lying down. Let me fight with him first. No, it's not easy to get this opportunity. We must get rid of them immediately. Before the emperor spoke, Dong Hanzong spoke first. Did I talk to you? Idiot, get out of my way. The inner demons immediately scowled and spoke without mercy. In his eyes, there was no such thing as a peerless genius. They were all trash. You. Dong Hanzong immediately glared at the inner demons angrily. The emperor said lightly, Dong Hanzong is right. We can't drag this on. These people must be eliminated immediately. The inner demons raised his eyebrows. It seems that we can only fight to the death with them. Lu Jiajin secretly snorted and transmitted his voice with a smile. Little cousin, are you ready? The moment we returned to the Divine Kingdom, we were ready to fight to the death. We just didn't expect it to come so soon. Qin Feiyang secretly laughed. Return to the Divine Kingdom? Lu Jiajin was stunned and asked suspiciously, You went back? Yes. Not long after you returned to the Central Dynasty, we went back and also to the Great Qin. Qin Feiyang secretly replied. Is everyone okay? Lu Jiajin secretly asked. Everyone is fine. Everyone knows that you're not dead. They're very happy and looking forward to your return. Qin Feiyang secretly laughed. Hearing this, the demon couldn't help but think of many familiar figures. Her heart couldn't help but ache. She thought to herself, if that's the case, then we can't die here. We must all return alive. That's right. We must all go back alive. The white-eyed wolf clenched his fists. They had walked such a difficult path before. They could do it now. Chapter 44-45. The Emperor of the Central Dynasty, the top 10 families, the 2 squads of the Death God Army, the legendary Sovereign Divine Weapon, and the even more terrifying Origin Force. This lineup was enough to make anyone despair. The atmosphere was extremely heavy. The Sea Lion Demon King was so scared that his face turned pale. But Qin Feiyang, the inner demons Lu Jiajin, and the white-eyed wolf had endless fighting spirit in their hearts. Because they had a belief in their hearts. No matter how difficult it was, they had to survive. Die. Even the Heavenly King can't save you today. Dong Hanzong stared at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and laughed. Bang. Accompanied by a terrifying aura, everyone around them activated their ultimate profound meaning. One had to know. There were more than 20,000 people here. Even if each person had 6 ultimate profound meanings, there were more than 100,000 of them. One could imagine how terrifying this momentum was. But the most terrifying thing was the Emperor's sword and origin force in the Emperor's hand. Especially the origin force. The terrifying lethality was almost suffocating. Let's fight. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath. 3,000 incarnations appeared. The white-eyed wolf also activated his battle soul. The lunatic's all-evil sword also suddenly roared out. In the sky, the inner demons also activated their Demon King True Body. Each Demon King True Body was 10,000 feet tall, like an ancient giant, with monstrous demonic aura. However, in the eyes of the Emperor and the others, the inner demons activated their Demon King True Body to help kill Qin Feiyang, and the other two. In fact, this was also the effect that the inner demons wanted. The reason why he had been hiding his identity was that he wanted to catch the Emperor and the others off guard with lightning speed. In this way, he might be able to kill his way out. The battle was about to start. Bang! However, at this moment, a green foxtail fell from the sky. That's right. This was a green foxtail. However, this dog's tail grass was different from ordinary dog's tail grass. Its entire body shone with divine light, as dazzling as the scorching sun. Moreover, it exuded a destructive power. This is... Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf stared at the green foxtail, with a trace of unconcealable surprise in their eyes, because they were all too familiar with the green foxtail grass. It was the Soteria grass that the mysterious young man often held in his mouth. What is this? The Emperor and the others were bewildered. A single strand of green foxtail grass actually made them feel a great threat. The descendants of Qin Batian are not people you can bully at will. A lazy voice sounded. Following closely, the mysterious young man yawned as he walked out of the void. The snow python, which had long transformed into a divine dragon, also seemed to be infected. It laid on the young man's shoulder and looked sleepy. Qin Batian. The Emperor enunciated each word clearly, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Dong Hanzong, one of the 10 direct descendants of the Dong clan, and 2 of their squads were also filled with murderous intent. Looks like we don't have to fight to the death. Lu Jiajin smiled inwardly. The inner demons also had a hint of a smile in their eyes. They already knew the situation of this young man. As long as this young man made a move, all the problems would be solved. I didn't expect you all to know me. Looks like I'm quite famous in the Central Dynasty. The young man yawned. It seemed like he hadn't woken up for a day. Boom. And in the next moment, the green foxtail grass that was floating in the void suddenly shot out a dazzling 5-colored divine light. Origin energy. That's right. This was the origin energy hidden in the green foxtail grass. When this origin energy exploded, the world instantly fell into a dead silence. It was as if everything had stopped at this moment. In the next moment, this origin energy erupted with world-destroying might, crushing all the ultimate mysteries as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. One had to know. The ultimate mysteries of the 2 squads of the 10 direct descendants of the Dong clan added up to more than 100,000, and they all contained the will of the heavenly Tao. But such a terrifying number of ultimate mysteries was completely unable to resist the young man's origin energy. This showed how terrifying the young man's origin energy was. Finally, the young man's origin energy blasted toward the origin energy in the king's hand. They were both origin energy, but the moment they met, the difference in strength was obvious. The king's origin energy was shattered on the spot, and he had no power to fight back. So strong. The inner demons were dumbfounded. This was the first time the Sea Lion Demon King saw the young man make a move, and he was so shocked that he couldn't even close his mouth. This was too strong. He alone could wipe out thousands of troops. Boring. The young man shook his head, and then waved his hand. All the origin energy quickly returned to the green foxtail grass like a tide. Immediately after, he held the green foxtail grass in his mouth, swept up Qin Feiyang and the other 2, and broke through the sky at lightning speed. When the Emperor and the others came back to their senses, the group of 4 had disappeared without a trace. What are you all waiting for? Hurry up and chase after them. The Emperor roared. Everyone quivered. They immediately activated the momentary time, and chased after him madly. They were really shocked. This Qin Batian was just a descendant of the human sovereign. How could he have such a terrifying origin energy? The emperor's face was as calm as water. He looked at the inner demons and said in a deep voice, Lu Yintian, you have 2 wills of the heavenly path. Go and help them. When we went to kill Dong Qingyuan, you came out to stop us. Now that we are in trouble, you want us to help. Why? The inner demons sneered. Now is not the time to throw a tantrum. The emperor shouted coldly. Humph. The inner demons snorted and reluctantly activated 2 wills of the heavenly path. In the momentary time, he swept up Lu Jiajin and quickly broke through the sky. 2 wills of the heavenly path were indeed extraordinary. In just a few blinks of the eye, they overtook the 10 lineal families and the 2 squads. They ran at the front and kept closing in on Qin Feiyang and the other 3. The young man sensed the aura of the inner demons and said indifferently, Do you want to shake them off? No need. I have something to ask them. Qin Feiyang shook his head. However, immediately, Qin Feiyang looked at the young man in a daze. Shake off the inner demons? This guy was talking in his sleep, right? The inner demons had 2 wills of the heavenly path. Even he didn't have the confidence to shake off the inner demons. Where did this young man get his confidence from? At the same time, hearing the conversation between Qin Feiyang and the young man, the Sea Lion Demon King was slightly stunned. He turned his head and looked suspiciously at the 2 inner demons who were chasing after them. Did these 2 know Qin Feiyang? After a while, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin caught up. That boy, we meet again, the inner demons said to the young man. The young man turned his head and looked away, as if he didn't know him. Still arrogant? The inner demons sneered. But this time, it was all thanks to the young man. Otherwise, this battle would have boded ill rather than well. What's wrong with you? Why is Dong Qingyuan still alive and kicking? The white-eyed wolf asked secretly. There's nothing we can do. The emperor has been protecting him. At that time, he even asked us to return the peak-level sovereign divine weapon to Dong Qingyuan. The inner demons were helpless. Although they were communicating secretly, they were always some distance away. What? Return it to Dong Qingyuan. We snatched it with our own ability. Why should we return it to him? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. I definitely won't return it to him. You must be kidding. You want me to return it to him when it's already in my hands? Is that possible? The inner demon sneered secretly. Qin Feiyang asked telepathically, So now, have you gained the emperor's trust? Yes. Back in the 4 great continents, the show we planned was very successful. And because of his favoritism toward Dong Qingyuan, the emperor seems to feel a little guilty, so he's especially good to us now. He even wants us to rebuild the 10th team of the Death God army. The inner demons sneered secretly. Rebuild the 10th team. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. That's right. The emperor has this plan. He also wants us to be the commander and deputy commander of the 10th team. The inner demons said. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he asked secretly, How much do you know about the Death God army? Almost all of it. The situation of the 2nd and 10th teams is the same. Apart from the commander and deputy commander, there are 10,000 members. The inner demons said. Qin Feiyang was shocked when he heard this. It was indeed terrifying. What about the first team? The white-eyed wolf secretly asked. The first team only has 5,000 people. However, these 5,000 people have mastered all the ultimate profound meanings. The inner demons said in a deep voice. All the ultimate profound meanings? The white-eyed wolf was shocked. That's right. It's all the ultimate profound meanings except for the laws of light and darkness and the laws of life and death. The inner demons said. Including the ordinary laws? The white-eyed wolf was surprised. Nonsense. All the ultimate profound meanings naturally include the ultimate profound meanings of the ordinary laws. The inner demons rolled his eyes. This wolf cub's comprehension ability was really terrible. Damn. These people are amazing. The white-eyed wolf was shocked. Qin Feiyang secretly said, Since we have already found out about the Death God army, there is no need for you to continue to follow them. I think so too, but Big Cousin said that we should continue to lurk around the emperor. Firstly, we can gather information. Secondly, we can wait for an opportunity to catch them off guard. The inner demons pursed his lips. Is there a problem with my suggestion? Lu Jiajin secretly laughed. I didn't say there is a problem. I just don't want to continue hiding like this. It's uncomfortable all over. The inner demons said. Actually, this is also good. Just like today, if you guys suddenly attacked, you can completely catch them off guard. Qin Feiyang secretly smiled. Don't just talk about us. How did you guys break into the Central Dynasty? The inner demons was suspicious. Even Dong Hanzong knows about this. Why don't you guys know about it? This made Qin Feiyang quite surprised. We have been in seclusion to integrate the ultimate profound meanings you gave us, so we didn't pay attention to the outside world. If it weren't for the Emperor personally sending us a message to come to Hanzong City to encircle and annihilate you guys, we wouldn't know that you have entered the Central Dynasty, the inner demons said. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly smiled and explained. We entered the Central Dynasty with the help of Lin Yi. Immediately, he briefly explained the situation to them. Chapter 44-46. I see. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were suddenly enlightened. They didn't expect that even Lin Yi's battle soul had evolved. Are you sure that there is no eye of reincarnation in the Divine Kingdom? Qin Feiyang asked. During the period when we came back, we investigated this matter again. There is no such thing. Originally, we were wondering if it was hidden in the Death God Legion. But as we gradually understood the Death God Legion, there is no eye of reincarnation. Lu Jiajin transmitted his voice. Strange. Where is this eye of reincarnation? Qin Feiyang frowned. This matter can't be rushed. We have to wait for the ancestor to appear and let him find it himself. It's a top priority. You have to strengthen your strength quickly, especially you, Qin Feiyang. Having 3,000 incarnations and mastering one more profound meaning is equivalent to having 3,000 profound meanings in battle. The inner demons secretly said. These words were true. Qin Feiyang mastered one more profound meaning. 3,000 incarnations meant 3,000 profound meanings. Moreover, all of them had dual will of heaven's path. Combat power was doubled. I know. Now that our whereabouts have been exposed, and the situation of the Death God Legion has been investigated, we really have to go into seclusion to cultivate. Qin Feiyang nodded. The inner demons rolled his eyes and smiled. As for the Emperor, you can start with his daughter. His daughter? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were taken aback. Yes. For his daughter, he treasures her very much. The inner demon smirked. This is a good choice. Qin Feiyang murmured. Capturing the Emperor's daughter was equivalent to strangling the Emperor's neck. Not to mention making the Emperor compromise, at least he would be cautious. When facing them, he would also be timid. In addition, if you want to hide, you can go to Myriad Demons Valley. The inner demons said again. Myriad Demons Valley? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were taken aback. Myriad Demons Valley is a forbidden area in the Central Dynasty. Normal people wouldn't dare to set foot here. But for a madman, the Myriad Demons Valley might be heaven. The inner demons cackled. Heaven? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were even more confused. The Myriad Demons Valley was clearly a forbidden area, but why did this lunatic think it was heaven? You'll understand when you get there. After the inner demons finished speaking, he slapped his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. He instantly entered a weakened state. Lu Jiajin was the same. What's the situation? The Sea Lion Demon King looked at this scene in astonishment. He was not included in their conversation, so he was still unaware of the relationship between Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. Be careful, Qin Feiyang secretly instructed. He activated the dual will of the heavenly Tao in the instant of time, and took the initiative to sweep up the young man, the white-eyed wolf, and the Sea Lion Demon King. He tore through the air without looking back. I've finally escaped this calamity. Lu Jiajin stopped in the void and said with a smile. However, this lesson has also served as a wake-up call for us. The inner demons' eyes flashed coldly. Dong Hanzong? Lu Jiajin asked. That's right. This person is too big of a threat to us. We must find a chance to get rid of him. The inner demon's eyes flashed with killing intent. If they didn't get rid of him as soon as possible, this person would sooner or later become a disaster. After a long while, only then did the 10 great clans and the 2 small squads catch up with them. Where are they? A fat man with a big belly asked as he looked at Lu Jiajin and his companion. This person was the commander of the 9th squad, Dong Qian. They ran away. The inner demons said lightly. Ran away? Don't you control the dual will of the heavenly Tao? How could you let them run away? Another middle-aged man spoke. This man was more muscular. He had a buzz cut and was more than 9 meters tall. He looked a little tough. And he was the commander of the 8th squad, Dong Kuan. Are you stupid? I have the dual will of the heavenly Tao. Does Qin Feiyang not have it? Moreover, that Qin Batian has the origin force. If we didn't act quickly, we might have died in the hands of Qin Batian. The inner demons looked at Dong Kuan coldly. Dong Kuan raised his eyebrows. The emperor, that fool, shouldn't have let us chase after them. Why don't you think about it? Even his source origin energy is no match for Qin Batian, let alone us. Isn't this just courting death? The inner demons snorted coldly. The group of people was stunned. The emperor was a fool? How dare he say this? Although they agreed with the inner demons' words, asking them to chase after Qin Batian and the others was tantamount to courting death, they couldn't say such disrespectful words. Perhaps in the entire central dynasty, only this Lu Yuntian dared to be so presumptuous. Who are you calling a fool? Suddenly, an angry roar sounded. They saw the emperor holding the emperor's sword, angrily rushing over. Dong Hanzong also followed by the side. Greetings, Your Majesty. Everyone bowed one after another, not daring to make a sound. Only the inner demons and Lu Jiajin didn't react. The 2 of them seemed to glance at Dong Hanzong intentionally or unintentionally. Dong Hanzong noticed the look in their eyes and couldn't help but feel a little flustered. I asked you a question, the emperor said angrily. Not only did they not catch up with them, but they also scolded him behind his back? This was simply outrageous. Did I say that? Dong Qian, Dong Kuan, and you old dogs of the 10 lineal families, did you hear what I said? The inner demons had an innocent look. Lu Yuntian, who are you calling an old dog? Don't be too presumptuous, I'll tell you. The old dogs of the 10 lineal families. No, the people of the 10 lineal families all glared at the inner demons. Whoever speaks is an old dog. The inner demons bared his teeth, not afraid at all. The people of the 10 lineal families all gnashed their teeth in anger. This was simply outrageous. They had no morals of respecting the old and loving the young at all. Seeing this scene, the emperor couldn't help but feel helpless in his heart. He loved and hated the inner demons and Lu Jiajin at the same time. Their talent, methods, courage, and perseverance were all top-notch, but only their character and temper were infuriating. Dong Qian, Dong Kuan, find them immediately. Even if we have to turn the central dynasty upside down, we must find them. Also, inform Dong Qingyuan immediately, and ask him to bring the other teams back to support us, the emperor said in a deep voice. Yes, Your Majesty. Dong Qian and Dong Kuan bowed in response. The inner demons looked at the emperor and said, I'm not trying to pour cold water on you, but even if you find them, do you have a way to deal with Qin Batian? These words were testing the emperor's bottom line. If the emperor said that he had a way, it meant that he had other tricks up his sleeve. If he said that there was no way, then he could be completely relieved. You don't need to worry about whether there is a way or not. The emperor glared fiercely at the inner demons. He didn't answer directly, nor did he respond indirectly. No one knew what he was thinking. What? Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden-Winged Wolf King have already broken into the central dynasty? No way. You're definitely not talking about Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden-Winged Wolf King from the Sky Cloud Realm, right? Nonsense. Besides the Sky Cloud Realm, does our divine kingdom still have Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden-Winged Wolf King? Is this true? Don't joke with me. In less than an hour, the major cities of the central dynasty were in an uproar. Everyone was talking about this matter. Who's joking with you? A friend of mine in Hanzhong City just sent me a message. He said that Qin Feiyang and the other two not only killed Dong Hanzong's second uncle, Dong Tianxiang, but also almost killed Dong Hanzong. If Dong Hanzong hadn't set up a divine soul in advance to save his life, he might have been a corpse now. So powerful. Even Dong Hanzong wasn't their match? It's hard to believe. But it's the truth. The most exaggerated thing is that the emperor personally led the 10 major families and 2 small teams of the Death God army to encircle them in Hanzhong City, but they still managed to escape. Damn. Are these people going to overturn the heavens? People were shocked. The prince personally led the 10 major families and 2 small teams of the Death God army, but they still couldn't kill these people? It was really hard to believe. Similarly, it was also because of the intrusion of Qin Feiyang and the others that the mysterious Death God army was exposed to the world. Now many people in the Central Dynasty already knew about the Death God army. Green Wind City. What did you say? Ji Xiaowu sat by the lake, looking sad, but suddenly, a maid came to find him and told him the news outside. He immediately stood up, turned around, and stared at the maid, his eyes full of shock. I don't know if it's true or not, but now everyone outside is talking about it. The maid said, I really didn't expect. It's them. Ji Xiaowu murmured and looked back at the calm lake. What was even more unexpected was that Dong Hanzong was still alive. He finally understood what the Sea Lion Monster King had said before he left. It was really true. It was not easy for him to survive in the hands of Qin Feiyang and the others. The maidservant asked, Young City Lord, are we going to take care of this matter or not? Intervene? Tell me, how should we intervene? Ji Xiaowu laughed at himself. The maid said, Assist the Death God army to find their whereabouts. Assist the Death God army. Ji Xiaowu shook his head and stared at the lake for a moment. Suddenly, as if he had made a difficult decision, he turned to the maid and said, Tell everyone to disband from now on. What? Disband? The maid was slightly stunned and looked at Ji Xiaowu in surprise. Yes. Disband. There's nothing I can do. If we don't leave now, Dong Hanzong will definitely find trouble with us. At that time, not only will I suffer, but you will also suffer with me. Concealing our identities and living in seclusion in the mountains is our best choice. Ji Xiaowu sighed. But, you didn't know the identity of these 3 people before. Even if they find out, they can't convict you. The maid frowned. You're too naive. Does Dong Hanzong need a reason to deal with us? Let's go. There are a lot of resources in the warehouse. Tell everyone to take some. After all, you have been in the City Lord's mansion for many years. Ji Xiaowu clenched his hands and promised, If I can rise in the future and become an overlord, I will find you and bring you back. What about you? The maid looked at Ji Xiaowu. Me? Ji Xiaowu looked up at the sky and smiled. The Central Dynasty is so big, there must be a place for me. Chapter 44-47. I didn't expect our young city lord to be so kind-hearted. You can't even save your own life and you're still thinking about your subordinates. Suddenly, a voice full of sarcasm sounded. Who is it? Ji Xiaowu was shocked. He looked up and saw 10 figures slowly walking out from the lake on the opposite side. It's you guys. Why did you come back? Ji Xiaowu glared at the 10 of them. Because these 10 people were their original consecrators. The 10 of them stepped on the lake and landed in front of Ji Xiaowu. What do you want? The maid hurriedly stood in front of Ji Xiaowu. A mere subordinate dares to be so presumptuous? One of the consecrators slapped the maid on the spot. The maid flew out and hit the ground with blood flowing from the corner of her mouth. Don't go too far. Ji Xiaowu was furious and hurriedly went forward to help the maid up. It was because he was kind-hearted, loyal, and did not have the arrogance of a young city lord. All the maids and guards in the city lord's mansion were very respectful to him. In short, he was deeply popular in the city lord's mansion. Too far. You're an orphan now. You have no backing. Even if we trample you under our feet, no one will care about you now. Another consecrator sneered. Ji Xiaowu clenched his fists and turned to look at the maid. he said in a deep voice. Hurry up and leave. Do as I say. It was still the same sentence. A tiger would be bullied by a dog. If it was in the past, how would these consecrators dare to be so presumptuous? The maid was reluctant to leave. Hurry, Ji Xiaowu shouted angrily. The maid's eyes trembled and turned to leave. However, another consecrator stood out and rushed in front of the maid. He grabbed the maid's head and with a loud crack, the maid's head exploded on the spot. Her soul was directly crushed into pieces. Bastard! Ji Xiaowu's eyes turned red as he madly pounced on the consecrator. The consecrator's face was full of disdain as he kicked Ji Xiaowu. Ji Xiaowu immediately flew out with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He said contemptuously, "With your little cultivation, you dare to attack me. Aren't you courting death? You've already left the city lord's mansion. Why did you come back?" Ji Xiaowu roared. "We came back to help you, of course." The group of worshippers crossed their arms, their eyes filled with greed and ambition. "Help me?" Ji Xiaowu was stunned. How could these pieces of trash be so kind? "We can assist you in becoming the city lord of Green Wind City. Furthermore, we can go to Hanzhong City and find Dong Hanzhong to plead for you. But we have a condition. You must listen to everything we say," one of the consecrators said. "What? You want to use me as a puppet?" Ji Xiaowu was furious. "You're pretty smart. That's right. We just want you to be our puppet. On the surface, you are the city lord of Green Wind City. But in reality, we are the ones who hold great power. You only need to listen to us." The 10 of them chuckled. "Why go through so much trouble? Why don't you just kill me and become the city lord?" Ji Xiaowu roared. "We've thought about it, but there are too many of us, and none of us are willing to submit to the others. So we thought of you. But don't worry. Although you're just a puppet, we won't treat you unfairly. On the surface, we will still respect you." The 10 of them laughed. Ji Xiaowu clenched his fists tightly and said in a deep voice, "What if I say no? If you dare to say no, not only will we kill you, but we will also kill everyone in the city lord mansion. Anyway, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 have already entered the central dynasty. Moreover, they have a grudge with your father. At that time, we can announce to the public that they are the ones who massacred the city lord mansion." The 10 of them sneered. "You're despicable," Ji Xiaowu roared. Why didn't he see the true colors of these people before? "I'll give you 3 breaths to consider. 1, 2, 3. Just as the word 3 was uttered, Ji Xiaowu raised his head and glanced at the city lord mansion. He closed his eyes in pain and nodded. "I agree. That's more like it. Don't worry, we will definitely treat you well." The 10 of them laughed. Ji Xiaowu buried the anger and hatred in his heart and opened his eyes to look at the 10 of them. "But you have to promise me that you will treat everyone in the city lord mansion well." "Of course. After all, we are all family." One of the consecrators laughed. Looking at the smile on his face, Ji Xiaowu suddenly felt disgusted and nauseous. "I'll go and bury her." He desperately suppressed his killing intent and walked in front of the dead maid and murmured, "Don't worry, I won't let your death be in vain. I will definitely make these bastards pay the price." After saying that, he picked up the maid's corpse and strode towards the back of the mountain at the side. A few days later, the news that Qin Feiyang and the other 2 had entered the central dynasty had spread throughout the entire central dynasty. The city lord mansions of the various cities were assisting the Death God army to track down the 3 of them. "Bastard! There's actually a traitor in the Kuanpeng Sea region. Kuanpeng Divine Island." The Kuanpeng Sea region that received the news was furious. Dong Qingyuan, the dragon god, also had a terrible look on his face. They desperately searched the Kuanpeng Sea region, but they didn't expect that the 3 of them had already left the sea region without anyone knowing and almost killed Dong Hanzhong. Weren't they playing around with them like monkeys? At the same time, they also started to worry. If they could keep Qin Feiyang and the others in the Kuanpeng Sea region, even if a war broke out, the central dynasty people wouldn't be affected. But now, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 had successfully landed. Once a war broke out, they would definitely be at a disadvantage, because they had to take many things into consideration. When facing Qin Feiyang and the others, it was inevitable that they would be afraid. On the other hand, Qin Feiyang and the other two, they didn't have to worry about anything and could attack unscrupulously. As expected by Qin Feiyang and the others, the emperor immediately arranged for people to go to the floating island to replace the old Divine Kingdom token and bring Dong Yiming back. In other words, the Divine Kingdom token in Qin Feiyang's hands was now useless. Moreover, after knowing what Qin Feiyang and the others had done in the Kunpengsi region and Hanzhong City during this period, Dong Yiming was also furious. He swore to kill the three of them. In a bustling city, 3 young men and a young woman entered a restaurant one after another. The restaurant was high-end and luxurious. The 3 of them gathered in a private room. They had outstanding appearances and extraordinary temperaments. This Dong Hanzong is really lucky. Not only did he not die, but the emperor thinks more highly of him now. The one who finished speaking was a strong young man, whose face was full of anger. These 3 people were Dong Tianqian, Dong Ping, and Dong Xian. Don't worry. Now that Qin Feiyang has his eyes on him, he will die sooner or later. Moreover, isn't Dong Tianxiang's death very satisfying? Dong Tianqian sneered. That's true. Dong Tianxiang is his second uncle, and he died in the hands of Qin Feiyang and the others. I think Dong Hanzong must be very upset now. Dong Xian chuckled. This Dong Tianxiang is usually arrogant and despotic. I have long disliked him. If it weren't for Dong Hanzong, I wouldn't have let him go. Killing intent flashed in Dong Ping's eyes. Let's not talk about this first. Dong Tianqian waved his hand and looked at Dong Xian. You should know why we asked you out, right? Yes. Dong Xian nodded. When Qin Feiyang was in the 4 great continents, we didn't care. But now they have entered the central dynasty. If they come to us and ask us to do something for them, we can't refuse. Dong Tianqian sighed. This is also the problem I am worried about. With their means, they can find us in minutes if they want. Now that the emperor is not in the Divine Kingdom, no one can help us break the blood oath. I really don't know how to face Qin Feiyang and the others. Dong Xian's face was filled with helplessness. Dong Ping frowned. Speaking of which, they have been in the central dynasty for so many days. Why haven't they come to us yet? Could it be that we are no longer valuable? Isn't that better? I hope they never come to us, Dong Tianqian said. That's impossible. They will come to us sooner or later. Dong Xian shook her head. Whether it was their strength or their family's influence, they were all very valuable. Qin Feiyang and the others would not let them go so easily. Why don't we take the initiative to find them? See if there is any hope of getting them to break the blood oath? Dong Ping pondered for a while and said, Are you an idiot? I can't even avoid them. Why would I take the initiative to find them? Dong Xian looked at Dong Ping with disdain. She really didn't know what this person was thinking. Dong Ping smiled embarrassedly. I want to see if there is anything we can use to exchange. Exchange. Dong Xian was stunned. This method was worth a try. But what did Qin Feiyang and the others need? An ultimate inheritance? What a joke. Did Qin Feiyang lack inheritances? Soul line crystal vein? These things were not worthy of Qin Feiyang and the others' attention. A dominator divine weapon? The other party controlled an independent small world. Wouldn't it be easy for them to create a dominator divine weapon? No matter how they thought about it, the 3 of them couldn't think of anything that could pique Qin Feiyang's interest. Why don't we steal the emperor's sword and give it to them? Dong Ping suddenly said. He would not stop until he shocked everyone to death. Dong Tianqian and Dong Xian were so scared that their faces turned pale. Are you crazy? Dong Tianqian fiercely knocked on Dong Ping's forehead and said angrily. Aren't you leading us to our deaths? How dare you steal the dominator divine weapon of an emperor? Ha! Dong Ping laughed and rubbed his forehead. I'm just saying. You can't even say it. Dong Tianqian glared at him. After a while his eyes flashed and said, I think we should start with Dong Hanzong. Dong Hanzong, Dong Ping and Dong Xian fell into deep thought. Qin Feiyang and the others didn't have a good impression of Dong Hanzong, and this time, Dong Hanzong set a trap for them and almost killed them. I think, with Qin Feiyang and the others' personalities, they won't let it go. So starting with Dong Hanzong should be the most effective and direct way. Dong Tianchen said. I agree. In any case, Dong Hanzong is our mortal enemy. Let's join forces with Qin Feiyang and get rid of him. Dong Xian nodded. If Qin Feiyang hadn't come to save her and Dong Ping, they might have become Dong Hanzong's puppets. Okay. Let's do it. Dong Ping also nodded straightforwardly. Although they were all from the Central Dynasty, he only hated Dong Hanzong. Chapter 44-48. At the same time, in front of the entrance of a valley, 4 figures stood side by side. The entrance of this valley was very narrow. It looked like a skull, like a devil bearing its fangs, waiting for its prey to come to its door. The 4 were Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, the mysterious young man, and the Sea Lion King. This is the Myriad Demons Valley that the inner demons mentioned. The white-eyed wolf scanned the valley. Apart from the terrifying appearance of the entrance, there was nothing different inside. Just like other places, there were mountains and rivers, and the scenery was beautiful. Let's split up here. The mysterious young man said. Huh. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf turned to look at the mysterious young man. They were caught off guard. Why did he want to leave again? After all, they entered the Divine Kingdom together. Couldn't they share weal and woe together? Don't flatter yourself. Although I agreed to come to the Divine Kingdom with you, I didn't say that I would help you deal with the Divine Kingdom. I'm just a wild crane, free and unrestrained. No one can tie me down. The mysterious young man looked at the two and yawned. When the Sea Lion King heard this, he was about to cry. He envied this young man's life. Unlike him, he was dragged onto this pirate ship and couldn't escape even if he wanted to. No, he didn't dare to run now. Because once he left Qin Feiyang and the others, he would die in the hands of the Death God Army. Now the Death God Army was not only tracking Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and the Golden-Winged Wolf King. They were also hunting him, the traitor. Traitor? He was really wronged. To put it in layman's terms, he was forced to become a prostitute. What's the situation? The mysterious young man looked at the Sea Lion King. Big brother, you are Qin Feiyang's ancestor, right? Please save me. I really don't want to fool around with them. I'm still young, and I haven't had enough fun. The Sea Lion Beast King looked at the mysterious young man with a look of despair and grief. The young man was stunned. Why was he so pitiful? To think that I'm a talented man with a great future. How can I go astray like this? Big brother, you are my big brother. The Sea Lion Demon King hugged the young man's leg with tears and snot running down his face. Qin Feiyang and the ingrate's mouths twitched. Astray? Big brother? The corner of the young man's mouth twitched. He kicked the Sea Lion Demon King away and said angrily, Don't get your snot and saliva on me. The youth was speechless to the extreme. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and said, How deranged are the two of you to actually force a fiend king into such a state? I think he is going crazy. Who forced him? It's obvious that he's too weak. Besides, if we didn't show mercy, he would be like the other monster kings, deprived of his ultimate meaning and suppressed in the soul-sealing valley. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. Qin Feiyang looked at the Sea Lion King with a dark face. Don't ruin our reputation. We have already given you your freedom. It's you who refused to leave. Do I dare to leave? You've already forced me to this point. Neptune looked aggrieved. The white-eyed wolf looked at him with disdain and said to the young man, See? He's the one who's useless. The young man's mouth twitched. He really sympathized with the Monster King's experience. In fact, this was the reason why he had been keeping a distance from Qin Feiyang and the others. Nothing good would come out of hanging out with these guys. Take your time and enjoy it. The young man gloated at the Sea Lion King and turned to leave without looking back. Suddenly he said, You two, stop messing around. I really don't have much origin power left. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf rolled their eyes when they heard this. He had said the same thing back in the Void Lands. At that time, the young man said that there was only one origin power, but what happened? He revealed his origin power again and again, and this time, he revealed a large amount of origin power. So the young man's words were just farts. If you believed him, you would be really stupid. Big brother, don't go. The Sea Lion King stretched out his hand and looked at the young man's back, shouting in despair. How was this enjoyment? Separation was torture. Still pretending. The white-eyed wolf's veins bulged as he stepped forward and kicked. The word shameless was a perfect match for this guy. The Sea Lion King quickly jumped up and dodged the white-eyed wolf's kick, laughing dryly. Isn't this too boring? So I found some fun for myself. But then again, Boss Qin, this ancestor of yours seems to be a bit cold to you. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. What ancestor? There was no way to find the relationship between them. Then, he raised his head and looked at the Thousand Devils Valley. Forbidden area? Was it that scary? However, there was indeed no living creature in the valley. It was as silent as death. The Sea Lion King looked at the Thousand Devils Valley and said seriously, I know about the Thousand Devils Valley, we'd better not go in. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at him suspiciously. It is said that the Thousand Devils Valley is shrouded in an evil force all year round. These evil forces are invisible and colorless, invisible to the naked eye. From the outside of the Thousand Devils Valley, there is no abnormality at all. But, when you enter the Thousand Devils Valley, you will find that the evil forces are everywhere. The Sea Lion King said. Evil forces. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. No wonder the inner demons said that this would be a lunatic's paradise. The lunatic was the god of all evil, controlling all the evil in the world. The evil forces here. How scary is it? The white-eyed wolf looked at the Sea Lion King curiously. Very scary. Even a Paragon Dominator realm expert can be swallowed in minutes. Even an expert with the will of the heavens will be destroyed if they stay in the Thousand Devils Valley for a long time. The Sea Lion King said. So powerful? Go in and try. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Ha! The Sea Lion King was shocked and hurriedly took a few steps back, saying angrily, Why don't you go in? You are our little follower. If there is danger, you will definitely go first. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Even a little follower has dignity, okay? The Sea Lion King said angrily. Do you want dignity? Or do you want your life? Choose for yourself. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth, his eyes full of a smirk. The Sea Lion King flew into a rage. On what basis? Should a little follower take the risk? No. When did this king become their little follower? Don't lead me astray. I'm about to go astray. Hurry up. The ingrate grabbed the Sea Lion Demon King's arm and threw him in when he was unprepared. Bastard. I will not let you go even if I become a ghost. At that moment, the Sea Lion Demon King roared in horror and landed in the canyon. Little Qinzi, why are these beasts with you all like this? No wonder people say that birds of a feather flock together. The white-eyed wolf despised him. You are talking about yourself, right? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched nonstop. It was true. None of them made him worry. Whoosh! Not long after, the Sea Lion King hurriedly ran out again, his face full of fear. And as soon as he came out, he immediately sat cross-legged on the ground, urging the power of law to refine the evil power in his body. Is it that exaggerated? Qin Feiyang and the Sea Lion King looked at each other, and also tentatively stepped out of the Myriad Demons Valley. Sure enough, as soon as they stepped into the Myriad Demons Valley, they felt an extremely terrifying evil power surging from all directions. And it was pervasive, gradually drilling into their bodies, crazily devouring their divine power, soul and power of law. Even their flesh and blood were rotting away. Making a prompt decision, Qin Feiyang activated the power of law to refine the evil power in his body. However, he was shocked to find that even the power of law that contained the will of heaven was difficult to refine. That's right. Although he could refine it, the speed was quite slow. This was the same situation as what he encountered in the Valley of the Underworld King's Hell. But one had to know. The current Qin Feiyang was no longer the same as before. Not to mention the evil power of the Underworld King's Hell. Even the Een demon power of the Een demon land was no longer a threat to him. After all, He now controlled two wills of heaven. However, at this moment, the evil power of the myriad demons valley could bring him such a great sense of crisis. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the evil power here was. It's nothing. Suddenly, a very annoying voice sounded. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the white-eyed wolf, and saw that the white-eyed wolf was no longer as shocked as before, and his face was indifferent. What the hell? This made Qin Feiyang stunned. The Sea Lion King, who was sitting cross-legged outside, looked at this scene and was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Why was this golden-winged wolf king not affected? It must be fake. Sure enough, the evil power in the world is no threat to me. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and quickly left the myriad demons valley, using the power of life and death to refine the evil power in his body. Don't say it. This was different. The power of the law of life and death was several times stronger than the power of the strongest law. Boss Qin, what's going on? Why is he not afraid of the evil power here? The Sea Lion King looked at the high-spirited and proud white-eyed wolf in the valley, his face full of surprise. I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The white-eyed wolf had never been very interested in the evil power. In the past, in the underworld king's hell, and later in the Een demon land, it didn't affect him much. Monster! The Sea Lion King exclaimed. Not long after, Qin Feiyang also refined the evil power in his body. Looking at the Sea Lion King who was still refining, he was speechless. Your speed is too slow. Do you think everyone is like you? Each and every one of you is abnormal. The Sea Lion King looked unhappy. This myriad demons valley was indeed a forbidden area. Judging from the current situation, even if he mastered the will of the heavens, he could only stay in the myriad demons valley for half an hour at most. Once half an hour was up, if he didn't leave the myriad demons valley, he would definitely die. Chapter 44-49. Do you want me to help you? The white-eyed wolf walked out proudly and looked at the Sea Lion Demon King. No. The Sea Lion Demon King shook his head. As a demon king, he must have a backbone. Haha. Not bad, very ambitious. The white-eyed wolf laughed and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, asking, Little madman should have almost recovered. That depends on whether he went to find my wife. Qin Feiyang smiled. Madman was seriously injured this time. Not only was his physical body destroyed, but even his divine soul was only left with a wisp. If he relied on himself to repair it, it would definitely be impossible without hundreds of thousands of years. But it was different with the Eye of Life. It could be done in minutes. And suddenly, the white-eyed wolf turned to look at the mountains behind him, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and immediately released his divine sense, shrouding the endless mountains and rivers. At that moment, everything was clear in his eyes. At this moment, there were many fierce beasts lurking in the dark, staring at them. There was even a beast in human form that had already taken out a sound transmission stone, and was sending messages. Not good, they have found us, run. Feeling Qin Feiyang's divine sense, a burly man hiding on the top of a mountain roared. This burly man was also a beast in human form. Following the burly man's roar, the nearby ferocious beasts immediately fled in fear. Sure enough, everyone in the Central Dynasty, every beast is the Emperor's spy. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Then do we still have to enter the Thousand Devil Valley? The white-eyed wolf frowned. If they entered the Thousand Devil Valley now, the Emperor would definitely lead the Death God army to encircle the Thousand Devil Valley. One had to know. The Emperor had the origin power in his hands. Others might be afraid of the evil power of the Thousand Devil Valley, but the Emperor was definitely not afraid. At that time, they would definitely be surrounded again. And it might be even more terrifying than when they were in Hanzhong City, because Dongqing Yuan must have already brought the other teams back to support. I can't hide in the Myriad Demons Valley any longer. Let's find a place to change our appearance first. As long as no one sees our changed appearances, they won't be able to recognize us even if we stand in front of them. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he turned around to look at the Myriad Devil's Valley. He smiled and said, But this place is really not bad. If Senior Brother can absorb all the evil energy here, The all-evil sword will definitely grow to a terrifying level. The white-eyed wolf nodded. The power of the all-evil sword depended on how much evil energy it could absorb. In fact, it was just like Qin Feiyang's slaughter domain. The more blood it absorbed, the stronger the slaughter domain became. However, Qin Feiyang had not activated the slaughter domain for a long time. So much so that the people of the Divine Kingdom did not know that he had such a trick up his sleeve. But now, where they were going had really become the key. After all, they didn't know much about the Central Dynasty. Isn't the most dangerous place the safest place? We might as well go to Green Wind City. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed and he laughed. Green Wind City. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Let's go find Ji Xiaowu and see if he has lived up to little madman's expectations. The white-eyed wolf said. Qin Feiyang laughed and said, that's a good idea. When the time comes, we can pretend to be that kid's consecrator. Maybe we will have a chance to get close to Dong Hanzong. Then let's do that. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand and opened a space-time tunnel. Green Wind City. City Lord's mansion backyard. In a pavilion. A space-time tunnel appeared in the hall. Qin Feiyang and the other two walked out silently. This backyard was usually used to entertain VIPs, so it was usually empty. The Sea Lion King looked at the white-eyed wolf with a bitter face and said, Boss Wolf, you should help me absorb the evil energy in my body. Don't you have a backbone? The white-eyed wolf sneered. In front of the two bosses, what's the point of having a backbone? The Sea Lion King smiled flatteringly. The white-eyed wolf's mouth twitched. His skin was really thick. He then raised his hand and grabbed the Sea Lion King's arm. At that moment, the white-eyed wolf's palm seemed to have turned into a man-eating monster. The evil energy in the Sea Lion King's body immediately rushed into his palm. In just a few blinks of the eye, the evil energy in the Sea Lion King's body was completely absorbed. The Sea Lion King's body became light and finally got rid of this embarrassing situation. He also sincerely admired the white-eyed wolf's methods. Such a terrifying evil energy was absorbed into his body, but nothing happened to him at all. If this was not a monster, then what was it? Change your appearance. Qin Feiyang took out 3 illusory form pills. Qin Feiyang turned into a middle-aged man with a scar on his face. He was 2 meters tall and looked a little fierce. The white-eyed wolf turned into a gentle middle-aged man. It was completely different from his previous temperament. As for the Sea Lion King, he turned into a blonde old man with a ruddy face and full of energy. I say, why don't you just leave? Look at you now, even I can't recognize your real body. Qin Feiyang looked at the Sea Lion Beast King and said with a smile, No, it's impossible for me to maintain this appearance for the rest of my life. The Sea Lion King shook his head. To a demon king, changing his appearance and concealing his identity was a humiliation. Didn't you know that? Are you planning to rely on us for the rest of your life? The white-eyed wolf's face was dark. Who kept clamoring to leave. Now that he had a chance, he actually didn't want to leave? This king is a monster king with a conscience. You gave me 2 inheritances, so I must repay your kindness. The Sea Lion King said in a serious tone. You win. The white-eyed wolf was powerless. In terms of face, he really couldn't win against this person. I really didn't expect that our young city lord would directly become the city lord of Green Wind City. It's really difficult to be young. Suddenly, a woman's voice came from outside. Ha! Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were taken aback. Ji Xiaowu had already become the city lord of Green Wind City? The footsteps were getting closer and closer. It was not the footsteps of a person. Moreover, they seemed to have come for their loft. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he activated the concealment technique. The 3 left and hid in the void. Soon, the door was pushed open, and 3 maids came in one after another. It turned out that they were here to clean the courtyard regularly. A place like this to entertain distinguished guests indeed needs to be cleaned frequently, because you don't know when there will be distinguished guests coming, so you must always keep it clean and tidy. One of the maids walked to the tea table and carefully wiped it. She sighed and said, Young City Lord is indeed very capable and treats us servants very well. But I can't figure out why those 10 consecrators came back. I've been wondering about this too. I heard that after offending Dong Tianxiang, these 10 consecrators were afraid that Dong Hanzong would come to trouble them, so they all ran away. But now the old city lord is dead, and they came back. The point is, these 10 people have done such a terrible thing, but the young city lord still accepts them. I really can't figure out what the young city lord is doing. People like them who are greedy for life and afraid of death should be driven out directly. Another maid chimed in. Those 10 consecrators left? No wonder I didn't see them outside the Star River. The white-eyed wolf muttered. That's not the point. The point is they are back now. And Ji Xiaowu even accepted them. There is a problem here. But it seems that Ji Xiaowu has a good reputation. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Alas. Suddenly, the third maid sighed, focusing on the work in her hands, and said, You don't understand. The young city lord's father and grandfather were both killed, and the young city lord's cultivation is too weak, so he needs someone to assist him. That's true. It's the young city lord's bad luck. Why did he meet Qin Feiyang and the others? Not only did he lose his family, but he also offended Dong Hanzong. If it weren't for the young city lord being so good to us, I might have left the city lord's mansion by now. The two maids said. Now the whole city is searching for Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, Golden-Winged Wolf King, and Sea Lion Demon King. Even if we leave the city lord's mansion, we may not be safe. The three maids seemed to be chatting, completely unaware of Qin Feiyang and the other two. Let's go find Ji Xiaowu. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while. An inexplicable light flashed in his eyes, and then he left the attic silently with the white-eyed wolf and Sea Lion Demon King. After a while, they found Ji Xiaowu's residence. It was not far from the backyard, which was also an independent courtyard. Outside the courtyard, there were 4 guards, standing upright, protecting Ji Xiaowu's safety. At this moment, Ji Xiaowu was sitting alone in the pavilion in the courtyard, with more than a dozen empty wine jars scattered on the ground. He was lying on the stone table, reeking of alcohol, and holding a wine jar in his hand, looking extremely dispirited. What's going on? He's dead drunk. The white-eyed wolf frowned. Shouldn't he be very happy to become the city lord at such a young age? Facing the sadness of the death of his family, what's the joy of becoming the city lord? Sea Lion Demon King shook his head and sighed. No. This Ji Xiaowu is a relatively strong and responsible person. Since he has become the city lord of Green Wind City, he will definitely do his best. Even if there is sadness in his heart, he will try his best to suppress it. In other words, he can't be drunk here because of the death of Ji Daxiong and Ji Changming. Look at his eyes carefully. He is now like a walking corpse that has lost his vitality and hope. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. There must be something fishy about this. When the white-eyed wolf and Sea Lion Demon King heard this, they carefully looked at Ji Xiaowu's eyes and found that it was true. Despair, helplessness, and dead silence. This was completely different from the Ji Xiaowu they first saw. The three of them looked at each other, quietly entered the pavilion, and looked at Ji Xiaowu up close. Not only did he reek of alcohol, but his hair was also a mess, and there was no vitality at all. He was like a living corpse. Chapter 4450. After a while, Ji Xiaowu finally moved. He looked at the empty jar in his hand and shouted, There's no more wine. Give me wine. Young city lord, you can't drink anymore. The guard outside the yard turned to look at Ji Xiaowu and advised him with concern. Give it to me. I want wine. I want wine. Are you not going to listen to me as well? Hurry up and hand it over to me. Ji Xiaowu roared weakly. Even his words were incoherent and unclear. The 4 guards looked at each other and sighed. One of them came in, took out a jar of wine, and handed it to Ji Xiaowu saying, Young city lord, this jar is finished. You can't drink anymore. It's none of your business. Ji Xiaowu snatched the jug of wine and pushed the guard away forcefully. Then he began to drink from time to time. Alas! The guard sighed and turned to leave. What a sin! How could the young city lord become like this? If he went on like this, he would be crippled. Stop drinking. Qin Feiyang frowned and transmitted his voice. I want to drink. Leave me alone, Ji Xiaowu roared. The sudden roar did not attract the attention of the 4 guards. Because this kind of thing had happened many times these days, they just thought that Ji Xiaowu was drunk. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Since the 4 guards were guarding by the side, he could not show his face directly, so he transmitted his voice patiently. I'm Qin Feiyang. Stop drinking. You're Qin Feiyang? Or I'm Qin Feiyang's father. Ji Xiaowu was completely drunk. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. The 4 guards also looked at each other. Today the young city lord was even more drunk than before. He even dared to say that he was Qin Feiyang's father. If Qin Feiyang himself were to hear this, how would he react? They did not know that Qin Feiyang was here. Little Qinzi, when did you recognize another father? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang playfully. Get lost. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. What was he doing? The sea lion demon king was hiding nearby and snickering. Qin Feiyang looked at Ji Xiaowu and suddenly shouted, "Wake up!" This voice, like thunder, exploded in Ji Xiaowu's mind. Immediately, he shivered and looked around, his eyes full of confusion. Who was talking to him? Now you're awake. I'm standing right next to you. Don't overreact. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Beside me? Ji Xiaowu looked at the empty space beside him, his eyes filled with confusion. Wait. This voice, suddenly. His gaze trembled, and the remaining drunkenness disappeared. This was really Qin Feiyang's voice. Previously he still thought that he was dreaming. Qin Feiyang secretly said, "Send the 4 guards away first." Only by sending them away could it be easier to talk. Hearing this, Ji Xiaowu hurriedly put down the wine jar, turned to look at the 4 guards and said, "You guys go down first." Huh. The 4 guards turned to look at Ji Xiaowu in a daze. Was he talking to them? Go down first. I want to be alone. Ji Xiaowu sighed. He also knew that these guards were concerned about him and worried about him. But the 4 of them hesitated. I'm fine. I also promise you that I won't drink anymore. Ji Xiaowu smiled. Looking at this long-lost smiling face, the 4 of them were overjoyed. Go. Ji Xiaowu waved his hand. Yes. The 4 of them nodded respectfully and turned to leave. Ji Xiaowu suddenly said, "In addition, during this time, don't let anyone disturb me." Okay. The 4 of them nodded again. After the 4 of them left, Ji Xiaowu looked at the void beside him, stood up and looked at his embarrassed appearance, and said with a wry smile, "I've embarrassed myself in front of you." Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "Let's talk in the house." Okay. Ji Xiaowu nodded and turned to walk into the attic. After Ji Xiaowu closed the door, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 finally came out of their invisible state. You guys? Ji Xiaowu looked at the 3 of them in a daze. It's definitely not convenient for us to show our true faces now. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That's true. Ji Xiaowu nodded and pointed to the chair next to him. Sit. Facing Qin Feiyang and the other 2, there was no fear in his expression. He was very calm, as if he had seen through life and death. You're not afraid of us? White-eyed Wolf was surprised. Afraid? What's the use of being afraid? If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. Besides, if you really want to harm me, with your strength, you can just kill me directly. Why did you have to wake me up secretly? Ji Xiaowu shook his head. You have a good state of mind. It seemed that little crazy was right. He was a talent. If it was in the past, I wouldn't have such a mentality. Ji Xiaowu shook his head again. Sitting in front of the tea table, he looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2 and asked, "Tea or wine?" "Wine. Can you still drink now?" White-eyed Wolf looked at him jokingly. "I can't drink anymore." Ji Xiaowu smiled bitterly. His current mentality could be said to be due to Qin Feiyang and the other 2. Because of the death of his father and grandfather, because of the betrayal of the 10 consecrated masters, his mentality changed all of a sudden. Soon, in the hall, there was a wisp of tea fragrance. Why did the 3 of you come to Green Wind City? Don't you know that you're being searched everywhere now? Ji Xiaowu poured the tea and asked. Of course I know. But what does it matter? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Ji Xiaowu was stunned. as expected of Qin Feiyang, who shocked the 4 continents. In the face of the search of the Death God army, he could still be so calm. It seemed that he had to continue to learn from this person. Let's talk about you first. Why did you suddenly become so decadent? Qin Feiyang picked up the teacup and asked while drinking tea. Ji Xiaowu suddenly fell silent. A trace of pain and anger that could not be dissipated crawled up his face. His current state has nothing to do with us. Qin Feiyang glanced at Ji Xiaowu and transmitted his voice. Are you sure? The Sea Lion Demon King was stunned. Because I didn't feel his killing intent towards us. Qin Feiyang secretly said. The Sea Lion Demon King was stunned. This person could even feel the other party's killing intent? What kind of person was this? Shouldn't there be a limit to how ridiculous he was? After a long time, Ji Xiaowu looked up at the 3 of them and sighed. You may think that I became like this because of the death of my father and grandfather. The 3 of them were silent. In fact, it's not just you guys. The entire City Lord's mansion thought that I was too sad because of the death of my father and grandfather. But in fact, that's not the case. The death of my father and grandfather did make me very sad, but the cause of the whole thing was because of them. They were in the wrong first, so I can't blame anyone. The reason why I'm like this is because I feel sorry for myself. I'm also the young city lord, but now, I don't even have the ability to protect the maids and guards below. So I'm very desperate, and can only get drunk alone. Ji Xiaowu said painfully. His face was distorted because of the pain. Protect the maids and guards? Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were stunned. Yes. They believed in me so much and supported me, but I could only watch helplessly as they fell into the abyss of suffering. I could only watch her die in front of my eyes. And the only thing I could do was to find a place to bury her body. Ji Xiaowu clenched his hands, and there was a trace of hostility between his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang realized that this person's character was being distorted. This may be a good thing because it could allow him to grow, but it could also be a bad thing because it would make him become a ruthless and heartless person. What's the matter? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Originally, after you left, I was going to dismiss the City Lord's mansion's people, and let them take some resources and go home to live a normal life. And I was also going to leave Green Wind City and concentrate on cultivation. Because I was worried that Dong Hanzong would come to Green Wind City for revenge and implicate them. But at this moment, Ji Xiaowu's eyes surged with killing intent as he said in a deep voice, those 10 damned consecrators came back. Not only did they kill my maid in front of me, but they also threatened me with the lives of everyone in the City Lord's mansion. They wanted me to become the City Lord of Green Wind City, and become their puppet. What? The Sea Lion Beast King suddenly stood up and said angrily, this is too much. If I don't agree to it, they'll massacre everyone. Furthermore, they'll threaten to frame you all. I really had no choice but to agree and become their puppet. That's why I'm so desperate. Ji Xiaowu sighed. So that's how it is. They want to frame us. They are courting death. The white-eyed wolf sneered, and his eyes flashed with shocking killing intent. I don't care who they frame, I only care about everyone's life and death. These days, I'm really going to collapse. The more everyone cares about me, the more I feel sorry for them. I really don't have the face to be their young city lord. Ji Xiaowu growled. Looking at Ji Xiaowu, who was blaming himself and feeling guilty, Qin Feiyang's face gradually revealed a trace of a smile. Senior brother Crazy was indeed right. This young man was very good. It was a pity that he was from the Central Dynasty. Otherwise, he could really be trained well, and would definitely become a great person in the future. Do you really want to protect everyone? After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. Ji Xiaowu nodded without hesitation. Qin Feiyang said, I can help you, but in return, you have to help hide our identity. Huh. Ji Xiaowu raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. This person was actually willing to help him? One had to know. This person was a mortal enemy of the Central Dynasty. As a member of the Central Dynasty, shouldn't he kill him? Moreover, with his strength and ability, how could he help hide the identity of these people? He couldn't do it at all, okay? I don't need you to do anything. When the time comes, you just have to announce to the public that we were hired by you at a high price. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That's it. Ji Xiaowu was stunned and couldn't believe it. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Don't tell me you have other schemes. Ji Xiaowu was stunned. He didn't believe that there was such a good thing in this world. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. How could there be so many schemes in this world? Chapter 44-51. Is there really no conspiracy? Ji Xiaowu asked cautiously. White-eyed Wolf said with a dark face. Do you think a small character like you is worthy of our conspiracy? Hearing this, Ji Xiaowu smiled awkwardly. Although it was unpleasant to hear, it was an indisputable fact. With his ability and strength, he was not qualified to be schemed against by these people. I think this kid doesn't trust us, then let's just go. Sea Lion Demon King said lightly. Don't go. I trust you absolutely. Ji Xiaowu hurriedly pulled Sea Lion Demon King and refused to let go. Now these people were his only savior. He couldn't just miss it. Although he was somewhat conflicted because of the death of his father and grandfather, there was nothing he could do about it. It was natural for him to be conflicted. After all, Ji Daxiong and Ji Changming died in the hands of Qin Feiyang and the others. On the other hand, if he could be indifferent in the face of the enemy who killed his father, it proved that he was a ruthless and indifferent person. Qin Feiyang might not help such a person. I think you should think about it seriously. If one day, our identity is accidentally exposed, you will inevitably be implicated. At that time it will be a situation of 9 deaths. Qin Feiyang said. Ji Xiaowu pondered for a while, clenched his hands and said firmly, as long as I can protect everyone, I don't care. Looking at such a determined Ji Xiaowu, Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but show admiration in their eyes. Get out of here. At this time, a cold voice sounded. Master, you really can't go. The young city lord said that he wants to be alone and doesn't want to see anyone. A few more anxious voices sounded. These anxious voices were from the 4 guards. Oh no, they're here. Ji Xiaowu looked at the closed door, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Isn't that good? So that we don't have to invite them in person. Do you want to kill them now? Ji Xiaowu was surprised. Or do you want to keep them until the new year? The white-eyed wolf was speechless. Ha! Ji Xiaowu laughed dryly. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, then looked at Ji Xiaowu and said, when they come over, send the guards away. This will make it easier for us to make our move. All right. Ji Xiaowu nodded. Whoosh. Immediately, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 entered stealth mode again. Because now the concealment technique could be activated twice a day, and the duration had been extended. It was much more convenient than before. Just you wait, it's almost time for you to die. Ji Xiaowu clenched his fists and stared at the door with a sinister smile. Then he put away the teacups and teapot on the table and went to open the door. He saw 2 consecrators striding in. The 4 guards couldn't stop them at all. Not only was he unable to stop Zhang Xian, he even seemed to have been taught a lesson. There was a blood-red palm print on his face. Why are there only 2? Seeing this, Ji Xiaowu frowned. He thought that the 10 consecrators were all here. Young city lord, I'm sorry we couldn't stop them. The 4 guards took the lead and ran over, their faces full of self-blame. I'm the one who should be sorry. You were bullied by them again. Looking at the palm print on their faces, Ji Xiaowu felt extremely guilty. Young city lord, you don't have to say that. The 4 of them hurriedly waved their hands. In the city lord mansion, only the young city lord treated them as humans. Even Ji Zhongming and Ji Daxiong in the past were just dogs in their eyes when they looked at them. We'll be free soon. You guys go and help me do something. Seeing that the 2 consecrators hadn't come over, Ji Xiaowu's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he transmitted his voice to the 4 guards. Free. The 4 of them were slightly stunned and secretly said, what is it? Ji Xiaowu said, invite the other 8 consecrators over. Tell them that I have something important to discuss with them, and ask them to come quickly. Also, after informing them, You guys don't have to come together. We're not coming? Then can you face the 10 of them alone? The 4 of them were bewildered. Yes. Don't worry. Ji Xiaowu's tone was full of confidence. All right. The 4 of them secretly replied, and then turned around and left silently. Consecrators, I'm really sorry. These servants are too insensible. Subsequently, Ji Xiaowu greeted the 2 consecrators with an apologetic smile on his face. They are indeed insensible. When you have time, you have to educate them properly. They even dare to stop us. Aren't they courting death? The 2 of them sneered. Yes. Ji Xiaowu nodded his head and led the 2 of them into the hall of the attic. He pointed to the chairs beside him and said, "Please take a seat." The 2 of them walked over and sat beside the tea table. They coldly looked at Ji Xiaowu and sneered. I heard that you've been drunk every day for the past few days. Is it because of us? No. I'm upset because of the death of grandfather and father. Ji Xiaowu respectfully stood opposite the 2 of them, his expression full of sadness. I thought it was because of us. It turns out that it's because of their deaths. The dead can't be revived. Don't torture yourself like this. After all, your life is no longer yours but ours. The 2 of them laughed proudly. Yes. Seeing Ji Xiaowu nodding his head repeatedly with a flattering expression on his face, the 2 of them were very satisfied. One of them said, We'll go find Dong Hanzong tomorrow. Prepare a decent gift for you. Go tomorrow? Ji Xiaowu was surprised. Yes. I heard that the destroyed Hanzong city has already been rebuilt. Dong Hanzong seems to be in Hanzong city too. The 2 consecrators said. So fast. But I also heard that Dong Hanzong's body was destroyed by Qin Feiyang and the others. It's impossible to rebuild it so quickly. Isn't it too early to go tomorrow? Ji Xiaowu was a little hesitant. Do you really think that we can see Dong Hanzong in person? Who is he? The leader of the 5 peerless geniuses of our central dynasty. He is deeply trusted by the emperor. How can he personally come to meet small figures like us? Tomorrow we'll go to Hanzong City mainly to find the deputy city lord. This deputy city lord is Dong Hanzong's confidant. As long as we can curry favor with him and get his support, then we won't be in any danger. The 2 said. So that's how it is. I knew it. No matter what kind of gift I prepare, it won't be able to get into Dong Hanzong's eyes. Ji Xiaowu smiled embarrassedly. There's one more thing. Tomorrow only the 3 of us will go to Hanzong City. The 2 consecrators' eyes flickered. Only the 3 of us? What about the 8 consecrators? Ji Xiaowu was surprised. The 2 said. This is what we're going to tell you next. You must not let them know that you're going to Hanzong City tomorrow. Why? Ji Xiaowu was puzzled. Why did they have to hide it from the other 8? Don't worry about that. Just do as we say. When the time comes, we guarantee that you won't be short of benefits. The 2 consecrators smiled indifferently. Okay. Ji Xiaowu nodded. His mind was full of doubts. Isn't that simple? These 2 people are simply trying to abandon the other 8 people and curry favor with Hanzong City's vice city lord alone. When the time comes, once they get the support of the deputy city lord, they'll definitely leave and kill the other 8. Qin Feiyang's voice suddenly sounded in Ji Xiaowu's mind. What? Kill the other 8? Ji Xiaowu was secretly shocked. This is a person's desire and ambition. These 10 people look very friendly and united on the surface, but in fact they all have ulterior motives. It's simple. These 2 just want to get rid of the other 8 and take over the power alone. Qin Feiyang secretly explained. This is too ruthless. Ji Xiaowu was shocked. This is the way of the world. Mutual deception. Either you die or I die. Similarly, when they get rid of the other 8, your death date won't be far away. Qin Feiyang secretly said. My death date? Ji Xiaowu was shocked. Wasn't this an internal conflict between the 10 consecrators? How did it have anything to do with him? You still don't understand? The reason why you're still alive now is because these 10 people don't want to submit to each other. Once those 2 get rid of the other 8 people, there will be no one else that can threaten them. As such, a puppet like you will naturally lose your value. In addition, with the support of the Deputy City Lord, they'll be able to sit firmly in the position of City Lord and Deputy City Lord of Greenwind City, and control the resources of the entire Greenwind City. Qin Feiyang secretly said. After hearing these words, Ji Xiaowu couldn't help but feel a storm in his heart. This was really too terrifying. What kind of people were these? For the sake of profit and ambition, they would do anything. Do you understand now? Although you're the City Lord of Greenwind City now, sooner or later, you'll die in their hands. Qin Feiyang secretly laughed. These damn things, if I don't kill them, I'm not human. The killing intent in Ji Xiaowu's heart was unprecedentedly strong. Swearing is useless, you have to have great strength. In this world, great strength is the best thing to rely on. Of course, your brain can't be too bad. If you want to sit firmly as the City Lord of Greenwind City and protect the people around you, you'll need to sharpen yourself. The ingrate laughed in a mocking manner. Thank you for your guidance. Ji Xiaowu secretly said gratefully. Although these people killed his grandfather and father, in comparison, he hated these 10 consecrators more. Even, these two different kinds of hatred could be described as the difference between heaven and earth. Because Qin Feiyang and the others weren't hypocrites, they were what they were. And these 10 consecrators were all sanctimonious, two-faced villains. In the blink of an eye, after telling these things, the 2 consecrators didn't intend to stay any longer. They got up and looked at Ji Xiaowu, reminding him, remember to prepare the best gift. Okay. Ji Xiaowu nodded and glanced at the door. Why weren't the other 8 people here yet? Just as the 2 of them walked out of the hall, 8 figures flew over like lightning and landed in front of the door of the pavilion. They were the other 8 consecrators. What are they doing here? The 2 consecrators were surprised. Did they hear something? Chapter 4452. Why did you call us here in such a hurry? The 8 consecrators looked at Ji Xiaowu in confusion. What? Did you call them here? The other 2 consecrators heard this and turned to look at Ji Xiaowu and asked secretly. Ji Xiaowu did not answer the 2 of them and smiled. Since everyone is here, follow me in. I have something important to announce. After saying that, he retreated to the side. Something important? The 10 of them were suspicious and entered the hall one after another. After the 10 of them entered, Ji Xiaowu followed in and closed the door behind him. The 10 of them heard the sound of the door closing, and could not help but turn to look at him in confusion. I have a piece of good news. Ji Xiaowu looked up at the 10 of them and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said, the good news is that all of you are about to face a disaster. At this very moment, that laughter was exceptionally cold. Good news. Disaster? What do you mean? The 10 of them did not react to the contradictory words for a moment. Ah. But in the next moment, a barrier appeared. Immediately after, screams were heard one after another. But no one in the City Lord's mansion heard these screams. Because this barrier that suddenly appeared had a soundproof effect. The people who screamed were naturally the 10 consecrators. In just an instant, there was a fist-sized hole in the lower abdomen of the 10 of them. It was penetrating from the front to the back and blood was gushing out. This sudden unforeseen event left the 10 people completely dumbfounded. What was going on? At this moment, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 walked out of the void and stood beside Ji Xiaowu. You. Seeing the 3 unfamiliar faces appear, the 10 of them suddenly realized what was going on. This was a trap set up by Ji Xiaowu. This is good news. Ji Xiaowu sneered. The anger and murderous intent on his face were no longer concealed. Bastard! What are you doing? How dare you send people to ambush us? Do you want to die? Even if our sea of qi is broken, our divine souls are enough to kill you. The 10 of them roared. So powerful? Even divine souls can kill us instantly. Little Qin Zi, it seems like we've encountered a strong opponent. He's probably stronger than the Emperor, Dong Qingyuan, the Dragon God and the Kuan-Peng. White-Eyed Wolf had a mocking look on his face. Emperor, Dong Qingyuan, Dragon God, Kuan-Peng. The 10 of them were dumbfounded. This person had named all the top figures of the Central Dynasty. Wait a minute? Little Qin Zi. Qin? Could it be? The 10 of them looked at Qin Feiyang, and the other two in shock and bewilderment. Their eyes were gradually filled with fear. It seems that you've already thought of something. The white-eyed wolf grinned and swallowed a facial restoration pill. Very quickly he regained his original appearance. Qin Feiyang and the Sea Lion Demon King also took a facial restoration pill. You? Looking at these three faces, the 10 people's eyes trembled and their faces turned pale. It was really them. Come on, let me see. How are you going to kill us instantly with your divine souls? The white-eyed wolf looked at the 10 of them playfully. Plop. The 10 of them were so scared that they wet their pants on the spot. They directly knelt on the ground, trembling. Didn't you say that you can kill us instantly with your divine souls? Why are you kneeling? How can this be? You're more powerful than the Emperor, Dong Qingyuan, the Dragon God, and the Kuanpeng. How can you kneel before us? Get up, get up. We're just small fries. We can't bear it. As the white-eyed wolf spoke, he reached out to help the 10 of them up. However, how could the 10 of them dare to get up? Sorry. We were blind. Sirs, please don't lower yourself to our level. Yes, we're just a few dogs. We're afraid that killing us will dirty your hands. Sirs, please let us live. Please, I beg of you. At this moment, these 10 people could only be described as scared out of their wits. As they begged for mercy, they kept kowtowing and banging their heads against the ground. Can't you kill us instantly? The white-eyed wolf looked at the 10 of them in confusion. No. We don't have the ability to do that. Compared to you, we're not even comparable to ants. Sorry, we're really sorry. We didn't know about you. Please be magnanimous and give us a chance to live. We promise that we won't reveal your whereabouts. The 10 of them waved their hands repeatedly. They were extremely panicked in their hearts. Why were the 3 of them still in Green Wind City? Why did they help Ji Xiaowu? Could it be that Ji Xiaowu suddenly became so confident because he had the support of the 3 of them? How can you be ants? You're all big shots who can kill us instantly. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. We wouldn't dare. We're really wrong. The 10 of them were about to collapse. They actually dared to say such arrogant and conceited words in front of the 3 of them. Were they not courting death? You want to live? It's not that simple. Ji Xiaowu, it's up to you. The white-eyed wolf sneered and sat in front of the coffee table, crossing his arms and watching the show. Qin Feiyang and the Sea Lion Demon King's faces were also full of ridicule. Xiaowu. No, young city lord, I'm sorry, it's all our fault. Please forgive us, we'll be your cattle and horses in the future. We'll do whatever you ask us to do. We'll never disobey your orders. Obviously, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 had put their lives in Ji Xiaowu's hands. Therefore, they immediately crawled in front of Ji Xiaowu and kowtowed to beg for mercy. Forgive? Okay, I forgive you. Ji Xiaowu gritted his teeth. Before the 10 of them had time to rejoice, Ji Xiaowu raised his arm on the spot and slapped the 10 of their faces one after another, shouting, If I forgive you, will I be able to face the maid who died in your hands? Will I be able to face the guards who were bullied by you? At this moment, he was frantically venting the anger in his heart. These days he was going crazy from holding it in, so he was merciless when he attacked. In just a short while, the 10 of them were beyond recognition, bleeding profusely and lying on the ground on the verge of death. But for Ji Xiaowu, this was still not enough to vent his anger. He crazily punched and kicked until the 10 of them could not even cry out for mercy. Subsequently, Ji Xiaowu lay on the ground panting. He was also tired. He was sweating profusely, but his face was full of smiles. You didn't expect that you would have this day. There is a good saying, it's not that you don't want revenge, it's just that it's not time yet. You can despair, die slowly, and repent slowly. Ji Xiaowu sneered, got up, took out a dagger, and walked towards the 10 of them. Don't kill us, the 10 of them shouted weakly. But Ji Xiaowu was like a demon god, unmoved. Wait a minute. Qin Feiyang said. Huh. Ji Xiaowu was stunned, turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. They seemed to have mastered the ultimate profound of the strongest law. Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Yes. Ji Xiaowu nodded and said, They have mastered two ultimate profound of the strongest law. But he was puzzled. Why did Qin Feiyang suddenly ask about this? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said secretly, "Brother Long, come out and help." "You rascal! Why are you so nosy?" Long Chen responded helplessly. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Long Chen immediately appeared. "This is?" Ji Xiaowu looked at Long Chen in surprise. Although Long Chen looked calm and there was no murderous aura on his body, Ji Xiaowu could clearly feel a terrifying sense of oppression. Long Chen looked at Ji Xiaowu, and then looked at the 10 consecrators who were lying in a pool of blood. He suddenly understood and said with a smile, "It seems that you are very satisfied with this little guy. You guess wrong this time. It's senior brother who admires him." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Lunatic? That's really unexpected." Long Chen laughed and activated the soul control technique to control the 10 consecrators. This was a smart person. There was no need to ask anything. As long as he saw the situation, he would know what Qin Feiyang wanted to do. At the same time, it also proved that the current Long Chen understood Qin Feiyang very well. Soon, under Ji Xiaowu's incredulous gaze, the 10 consecrators obediently extracted their respective ultimate profound. There were a total of 20. Other than the Life and Death Edict and the Light and Darkness Edict, there were other ultimate profound of the strongest laws. "Thanks." Qin Feiyang smiled at Long Chen and sent Long Chen to the Black Tortoise domain. Too powerful to be able to control others and extract their own ultimate profound. "What kind of method is this?" Ji Xiaowu murmured. His eyes were filled with fear. These people were indeed terrifying monsters. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 20 inheritances and looked at Ji Xiaowu and said indifferently, "You can pick 6. "What?" Ji Xiaowu looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. Let him pick 6 inheritances? Did he hear it wrong? This was the ultimate profound of the strongest law. Its value was endless. For someone like him, it was impossible to get one in his lifetime. But now Qin Feiyang actually let him pick 6? He couldn't believe it. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Without powerful strength, how can you help to hide our identities?" "Are you really giving it to me?" Ji Xiaowu murmured. Pick whatever you want. Although in your eyes, the ultimate profound of the strongest law is very precious, in our eyes, it's nothing at all." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Ji Xiaowu's heart skipped a beat. Even the ultimate profound of the strongest law was not in his eyes. As expected of the famous Qin Feiyang who gave the emperor's headaches. How domineering. "Don't dawdle. We'll regret it later." White-Eyed Wolf urged impatiently. Yes. Ji Xiaowu shuddered and hurriedly ran up to pick the space-time law, time law, death law, life law, destruction law, and devour law. Quite smart. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly. The space-time law could be used to teleport, the time law could be used to set up a time array, and the life law could be used to heal injuries. These abilities were what people needed the most. "Thank you, 3 lords." Looking at the 6 inheritances in his hand, Ji Xiaowu's face was full of tears. He then knelt on the ground and thanked them gratefully. Although his father and grandfather were gone, he was still alive and had obtained the 6 inheritances. As long as he could integrate these 6 inheritances, he would be able to control the will of heaven and become a top powerhouse in this world. In the future, he would definitely reach an unprecedented peak and become an overlord. Chapter 4453. You don't have to thank us. Just don't betray us. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "I won't. Not only did you help me get rid of these 10 beasts, but you also gave me the ultimate law inheritance. If I still betray you, am I still human? Even if you are the enemy of the Central Dynasty, I won't do that. On the contrary, I don't have a good impression of the Central Dynasty," Ji Xiaowu said with a face full of disgust. Why? This aroused the curiosity of Qin Feiyang and the other 2. Because of the system of the Central Dynasty, the direct descendants are like the aristocrats, high and mighty. And we, the collateral descendants, are lowly commoners. Even if I am now the city lord of Greenwind City, I can only bow and bend my knees in front of the direct descendants. Ji Xiaowu snorted coldly. I didn't expect you to have such awareness. Qin Feiyang laughed. This little guy really made people look at him in a new light again and again. After living in the Central Dynasty for so many years, if you don't even have this awareness, there is no way you can survive. Ji Xiaowu sighed. That's true. Get rid of these 10 people. In the future, we will be your consecrators. Qin Feiyang smiled. With a wave of his hand, the soundproof enchantment dissipated. Okay. Ji Xiaowu nodded and looked at the 10 people who were controlled. His eyes were full of murderous intent. With a swing of his hand, the 10 people died on the spot. He kept his promise to the maid and killed the 10 people with his own hands. Men. Immediately after, he put away the inheritance and dagger, opened the door and shouted. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. They also changed their appearances once again, returning to their previous appearances. Whoosh! Very soon. 4 guards flew over. In fact, they had been not far away and paying attention to the situation here as they were worried about Ji Xiaowu. As soon as the 4 arrived and saw the corpses in the hall, they were shocked. Why are they all dead? Then they looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. Their eyes were full of doubts. Who are these 3 people? Ji Xiaowu smiled and said, These 3 are the consecrators that I invited. Consecration? The 4 of them were stunned. That's right. They were good friends of my grandfather when he was alive. I specially invited them to assist me. Ji Xiaowu gave a brief introduction. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two with a questioning look, as if he was asking if it was okay for him to say this. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He could say whatever he wanted as long as he could conceal his identity. Greetings to the 3 lords. The 4 guards hurriedly bowed. No need to be so polite. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Ji Xiaowu looked at the 10 people lying in the pool of blood and sneered. As for them, they deserved to die. Indeed. When our city lord's mansion was in trouble, they ran for their lives. After the crisis was resolved, they came back to abuse their power. The 4 of them nodded, their eyes filled with disgust. That's not all. Ji Xiaowu let out a sigh and finally told the truth to the 4 guards. What? Preposterous. They are too heartless. How could they treat you like this? The 4 guards were furious. It turned out that this was the reason why the young city lord was drunk. The young city lord had suffered such a great grievance in order to protect them. It's all in the past. From now on, we will unite and build Green Wind City well for the people in the city. Ji Xiaowu smiled. The 10 consecration were dead. He had also walked out of the haze, looking cheerful and gentle. Yes. The 4 of them nodded. This was the young city lord they knew. These days he had suffered a lot. Drag the bodies of these 10 people to feed the dogs. Ji Xiaowu instructed, then led Qin Feiyang and the other 2 to fly towards the rear courtyard. Young city lord. Compared to the old city lord, he is so good. Yes. The young city lord is so good to us. We must not let him down. We swear that we will follow him even if we die. The 4 guards looked at Ji Xiaowu's back. Although he was young, he was really admirable. The Sea Lion Demon King glanced at the 4 guards and looked at Ji Xiaowu with a smile. Did you see that? Kindness is rewarded. These guards will be more loyal to you in the future. You must be joking. Ji Xiaowu scratched his head, and was still a little embarrassed. Tell me the truth. Why are you still so pretentious? But then again, your grandfather and father don't seem to be good people. Why are you so special? Could it be that they picked you up? The Sea Lion Demon King was curious. When Ji Xiaowu heard this, he could not help but smile bitterly. Can you not joke? How could I be picked up? I might have inherited my mother's personality. Mother? The white-eyed wolf was stunned and patted his head. Yes, I haven't seen your mother. Where is she? Ji Xiaowu lowered his head and clenched his hands. What? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. Ji Xiaowu sighed. Actually, my father used to be very good. It was because of a big change that he became like this. There's still a secret? The white-eyed wolf and the Sea Lion Demon King looked at each other, their faces full of curiosity. Qin Feiyang glanced at Ji Xiaowu. then looked at the white-eyed wolf and the sea lion demon king speechlessly, and said, I say you guys, are you done yet? Since it's a secret, it's definitely not convenient to say it. Why do you keep asking? You're not sensible at all. Ha! The sea lion demon king laughed dryly. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips and said disdainfully, I didn't ask you. Why are you so agitated? I'm agitated? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Which eye of yours saw me agitated? He was just worried about Ji Xiaowu's mood. During the conversation, they had already arrived at the backyard. 3 lords, please stay here for now. Ji Xiaowu calmed himself down, took out 3 tokens, and handed them to the 3 of them. This is my Green Wind City's order of worship. Although with your strength, you don't need this thing, but if you want to hide your identity, it will still be very useful. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 took over the order of worship. It was the size of a baby's palm. Its entire body was pure gold. On the back, the words Green Wind City were engraved. On the front, there was nothing. Your names must be engraved on the front. I don't know what your names are now, so you can engrave it yourself. Ji Xiaowu laughed. All right. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, and engraved the words Dongda. The white-eyed wolf looked at the words on Qin Feiyang's token, chuckled, and also engraved the words Dong Air. Seeing this, the sea lion demon king simply engraved the words Dong San. Dongda Dong Air Dong San? This is too casual. Ji Xiaowu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The sea lion demon king looked at Ji Xiaowu and bared his teeth. In the future, you will announce to the public that we are 3 brothers. I'll go. You really know how to take advantage of others. The white-eyed wolf looked at him with disdain. The sea lion demon king grinned. To be able to call Qin Feiyang and the golden-winged wolf king brothers was also an honor. Ji Xiaowu looked at the 3 of them with a smile on his face. The sea lion demon king was a famous demon king in the Kunpeng Sea region, an overlord. Qin Feiyang and the golden-winged wolf king were even more powerful to the point of being unrivaled. But these 3 people didn't even have the slightest arrogance of an expert. If you didn't know who they were in advance, you would think that they were ordinary people. One more thing. Suddenly, Ji Xiaowu seemed to have thought of something, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Dong Hanzong may come to find trouble with me in the future. How should I deal with it? Or as the 10 consecrators said, I will take the initiative to apologize. These things you can do as you see fit. If you really can't solve it, you can come to us. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Okay. Ji Xiaowu nodded, then took out the sound transmission godstone, and said with a smile, Then let's establish a contract bridge, in case I can't contact you if I encounter any danger. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, then took out the sound transmission godstone. After establishing the contract bridge, Ji Xiaowu bowed and said, Then the 3 of you can rest first. I will also go wash up. My body is really dirty. The 10 consecrators were dead, and they had obtained the inheritance, and Qin Feiyang and the others were in the city lord's mansion. It was time to regroup and make plans for the future. Qin Feiyang nodded. Ji Xiaowu turned around and soared into the sky, looking up at the sky muttering, Mother, do you know about Father's death? Do you know my current predicament? If you know, will you come to see me? I really miss you. With a sigh, he stepped forward and gradually disappeared from the sight of Qin Feiyang and the others. This kid has a story. The white-eyed wolf whispered. I think so too. The sea lion beast king nodded. Why are you so gossipy? Qin Feiyang was speechless. He turned around and walked to the lake smiling. It's finally over. Next, let's focus on fusing the ultimate mysteries. Hearing this, the sea lion beast king suddenly became excited. When he fused the 2 inheritances and obtained the ultimate mysteries of the 8 supreme laws, he would really be an overlord. Right. What's the matter with the surname Ji? Qin Feiyang looked at the sea lion beast king suspiciously. It's a long story. It's said that the wife of the divine kingdom's ruler is surnamed Ji. And now, the Ji family is one of the 10 main families of the divine kingdom. The Ji family is the family of the ruler's wife. The Ji family also has a lot of descendants. After countless years of development, The number of their direct and collateral family members is as many as the Dong family. They are countless. This Ji Xiaowu is also a collateral family member of the Ji family. The Sea Lion Beast King explained. So that's the case. So, in the Central Dynasty, there's also the surname Ji? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. 2 major surnames. But in comparison, the Ji family can't compare to the Dong family. The Sea Lion Beast King nodded. That's for sure. After all, the Dong family was the true overlord of the divine kingdom. The Ji family was just the mother's family. Is the ruler's wife still alive? The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and asked. Yes. It seems that she's also at the imperial capital mountain. The Sea Lion Beast King said. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. The ruler's wife. Wasn't she more valuable than the emperor's daughter? What do you want to do? The Sea Lion Beast King looked at the two in surprise. They couldn't be thinking about the ruler's wife again, right? These guys were indeed not easy to deal with. They would pick wherever it was dangerous. Chapter 44-54. Don't you know what we want to do? The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes. All right. Since I've already boarded the pirate ship, I can only follow you. The Sea Lion Demon King sighed helplessly. Now he deeply understood what it meant to be a trap. Fortunately, these people were still loyal. If he encountered those selfish and heartless people, it wouldn't be as simple as a trap. He might even lose his life. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the madman appeared. His physical body had long been reconstructed, and his mental appearance was quite good. It seemed that he had gone to find the mermaid princess. Little madman, are you all right? The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Yes. The madman nodded. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were shocked and hurriedly asked with concern. Is there any internal injury? Mental trauma. I risked my life to protect you, shouldn't you thank me? The madman said. Qin Feiyang and the sea lion looked at each other. They thought that he had some internal injury, but it turned out that he was talking about this. Hey. The madman looked at the two of them with his head held high and his chest puffed out. He grinned and said, Come and thank me, I accept your worship. Get lost. The white-eyed wolf glared at him angrily. You're too heartless. If I didn't stand up and block in front of you, do you still have the chance to stand here and talk to me? You actually want me to get lost. It's really sad. The madman shook his head with a look of disappointment. The white-eyed wolf's mouth kept twitching as he said with a dark face, Why didn't the emperor's sword strike make you stupid? He has to have the ability to do so. The madman shook his head, his face full of pride. All right. I can only say that I admire your shamelessness. The white-eyed wolf was helpless. In the past, he seemed to be the most shameless person. Why was everyone more shameless than him now? Was this the so-called, the new generation excels the old? Back to the topic at hand. Qin Feiyang stopped the two of them from messing around. He looked at Madman and said, Senior brother, there's a place you should go. Where? Madman looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Myriad Demons Valley. Qin Feiyang said. If Madman were to enter the Myriad Devil Valley, he would definitely be able to obtain a great harvest. Myriad Demons Valley? Madman was slightly taken aback. When he was in the Myriad Devil Valley, Madman was in the Black Tortoise world, so he was unfamiliar with this place. Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation. There's such a place in the Central Dynasty? Madman was bewildered. Interested? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Of course. I'll go now. Give me the coordinates. Madman's eyes were filled with anticipation. Don't worry. I can't go now. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Why? Madman frowned. His curiosity was piqued, and now he was not allowed to go? Isn't this whetting his appetite? We originally wanted to hide in the Myriad Demons Valley, but we didn't expect to be noticed by the beasts outside. I think the Death God army must have arrived in the Myriad Demons Valley by now, so we have to wait for a while. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. How long do we have to wait? Madman frowned. If the Death God army kept guarding the Myriad Demons Valley, wouldn't they never have a chance? How would I know how long we have to wait? Qin Feiyang was speechless. He wasn't a member of the Death God army. Sea Lion suddenly smiled. Actually, we can think of a way. What way? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at him in confusion. Although there were many beasts watching us open the space-time tunnel to leave the Myriad Demons Valley, if we don't do anything now, they might think that we are still going to the Myriad Demons Valley. At that time, they might keep sending people to guard outside the Myriad Demons Valley. This way, Madman won't have a chance to go in. But if we go somewhere else now and make some noise, we will definitely be able to divert their attention. Sea Lion said. For example, now that Qin Feiyang and the others appeared in Green Wind City and made some noise, the Death God Army's attention naturally wouldn't be on the Myriad Demons Valley. Makes sense. Madman nodded and smiled. I didn't expect you to be so smart. You must be kidding. I'm also a monster king. Sea Lion's face was dark. Did they think he was an idiot? Haha. Let's do it this way. Madman laughed and patted Sea Lion's shoulder. I will leave this matter to you. Me? Sea Lion was stunned. Yes. Do we need to personally deal with such a small matter? If we have to personally deal with it, why do we need a little follower like you? Madman said as a matter of fact. The corner of Sea Lion's mouth twitched. Is this something a human would say? No matter how you look at it, this isn't a small matter. Because now they are being searched everywhere. As long as they show up, they will definitely be in danger. You're not willing? Madman raised his eyebrows. His eyes were extremely unfriendly. Of course I'm willing. But strength doesn't allow it. With my little tricks, if I'm caught, won't I be finished? It doesn't matter if I'm finished, but I'm a coward and can't withstand torture. What if I accidentally reveal your whereabouts? Then wouldn't I become a treacherous villain? How about this? Let's go together. Boss Qin has a concealment technique, so he can come and go as he pleases. No one can catch us. Sea Lion smiled flatteringly. He was afraid. Facing the terrifying Death Army, even if he was a monster king, it was useless. Madman and White-Eyed Wolf were speechless. What a righteous and awe-inspiring speech. Unfortunately, no matter what he said, he couldn't hide his cowardly nature. All right, let's go together. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, got up and said, Boss Qin is still the best. You are the idol of my generation. The Sea Lion Demon King immediately flattered him. Idol of my generation? You think you're still a 17 or 18-year-old young man. Shameless. Madman and White-Eyed Wolf were speechless to the extreme. They had never seen anyone more thick-skinned than this guy. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Lead the way. We'll go to any city, but it's best to be far away from Green Wind City. Let me think. Sea Lion pondered for a while and smiled. Then let's go to Snow Bear City. Snow Bear City is located in the southern edge of the Central Dynasty, and Green Wind City is in the northern edge, almost half of the Central Dynasty. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Thousand Demons Valley. Sure enough. Not long after Qin Feiyang and the others left Thousand Demons Valley, a group of people descended above the entrance. The leader was the commander of the 9th team, Dong Qian. Behind him, there were at least 1,000 people, all of them emitting a murderous aura. Greetings, Lord. A burly man flew over and knelt in front of Dong Qian. This burly man was a beast in disguise and was also the informant. Where are Qin Feiyang and the others? Dong Qian glanced around Thousand Demons Valley and asked the burly man. He wondered if they had already entered Thousand Demons Valley. But Thousand Demons Valley was a place that even he didn't dare to set foot in easily. How could these people dare to enter? They're gone. The burly man replied. Gone? Dong Qian was taken aback. Yes. It's also our fault. Originally, they were planning to enter Thousand Demons Valley, but they suddenly found out that we were monitoring them, so they turned around and left. Qin Batian was also separated from them here. The burly man said truthfully. Useless things, you were actually discovered by them. Dong Qian was furious when he heard this. The fat all over his body couldn't help but tremble. Lord, please spare my life. It's not our fault, they're too smart. Looking at the angry Dong Qian, the burly man couldn't help but tremble, his face pale. Get lost. Dong Qian snorted coldly. Yes. As soon as these words came out, the burly man hurriedly got up and turned around to leave. Originally, he wanted to tell Dong Qian that Qin Feiyang and the other two had stepped into Thousand Demons Valley and came out unscathed, as if they were not afraid of the evil power of Thousand Demons Valley. But in the face of the fierce Dong Qian, he really didn't dare to continue to stay. Dong Qian once again looked at Thousand Demons Valley. What did these people want to do in Thousand Demons Valley? Did they want to hide in Thousand Demons Valley to escape their pursuit? But wasn't this a joke? The evil power of Thousand Demons Valley was famous for being terrifying. Even if these people had mastered the will of Heavenly Tao, they wouldn't dare to set foot in. He was puzzled by the behavior of Qin Feiyang and the others. Commander, what should we do now? A member asked, looking quite angry. Why were these people as difficult to deal with as loaches? Since they came to Thousand Demons Valley, there must be a reason. Anyway, there is no news of them now. Let's lurk in Thousand Demons Valley and see if we can wait for them. Dong Qian said gloomily and disappeared into the mountains below. The other members followed one after another. Soon, their auras disappeared. From the looks of it, this mountain was very calm. Time flew by. About half an hour passed. In the southern border area of the Central Dynasty, there was white snow and bone-chilling cold. Suddenly, a deafening loud noise sounded. The ultimate profundity of the six supreme laws shattered the sky and blasted into a huge city. The city was reduced to ashes in an instant. There were millions of people, but only a few 100,000 people survived in the end. You're really ruthless. The white-eyed wolf and Frenzy looked at the Sea Lion Demon King in shock. The person who attacked was the Sea Lion Demon King. Isn't this what you want me to do? The Sea Lion Demon King was a little dumbfounded. Don't talk nonsense, we only asked you to destroy Snow Bear City, not to kill the people of Snow Bear City. We won't be responsible for this. Frenzy shook his head. The corner of the Sea Lion Demon King's mouth twitched. Was there a difference between destroying Snow Bear City and slaughtering the people of Snow Bear City? Who is this person? Why is he so crazy? Look. They seem to be Qin Feiyang, Madman Emo, Golden-Winged Wolf King, Sea Lion Demon King. Soon, those who were lucky enough to survive discovered Qin Feiyang's group. Because the four of them had recovered their true appearance, everyone could recognize them at a glance. It's really them. Are they starting to take revenge on the Central Dynasty? This way of revenge is too terrifying. Millions of people were turned into ashes in an instant. Looking at Qin Feiyang and the other three, hundreds of thousands of people were terrified to the extreme. Chapter 4455. Yes, this is our revenge. Snow Bear City is just the first. Madman chuckled. You're all courting death. A roar sounded. More than a dozen members of the Death God Legion came over murderously. They happened to be searching nearby. When they heard the commotion, they immediately rushed over, only to see this scene. How could they not be angry? His luck is pretty good. The corner of Sea Lion's mouth twitched. In such a remote place, they actually encountered members of the Death God Legion. Moreover, there were more than a dozen of them. It was really fortunate that he didn't come alone. Otherwise, it would definitely be a situation of 9 deaths. Because with his strength alone, it was impossible for him to be a match for more than a dozen members of the Death God Legion. You're the ones courting death. Madman laughed sinisterly. A mere dozen members actually dared to come out to kill them? Wasn't this courting death? The all-evil sword appeared, and its sharp edge swept across the sky, covering the sky and earth. Not good. More than a dozen people's faces changed drastically. They were no longer as arrogant as before. In an instant, they turned around and ran like frightened birds. Want to run? Do you think it's that easy? The white-eyed wolf smiled coldly. Golden wings appeared. However, just as the white-eyed wolf was about to chase, Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand to stop him. He shook his head and said, "Don't waste time. Anyway, our goal has been achieved. Let's retreat." Yes, yes, yes. Hurry up and retreat. Otherwise, when the Death God Legion's main force comes, we'll be finished. Sea Lion nodded repeatedly. Can't you be more promising? If you're so timid, How can you follow us? The white-eyed wolf's mouth twitched as he roared angrily. I'm not timid. I'm just looking at the big picture and thinking about everyone's safety. The sea lion demon king laughed. What a pompous claim. The white-eyed wolf was physically and mentally weak. The golden wings disappeared. Madman also waved his hand, and the all-evil sword dissipated. Then, the four of them opened a space-time tunnel, and left without looking back. What? They appeared in Snow Bear City, and slaughtered millions of people. Myriad Demons Valley. When Dong Qian received the news, his face was immediately filled with rage as he roared, "Damned little bastards, I will definitely not let you off." Immediately, he looked at the trembling ferocious beasts and roared, "Get over here." A group of ferocious beasts quickly ran over. Keep a close eye on the Myriad Demons Valley. Once you find any trace of Qin Feiyang, report to me immediately. Dong Qian shouted. Yes. The group of ferocious beasts prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to even breathe loudly. If you screw this up again, I'll kill all of you, Dong Qian said sinisterly before leading the 1,000 members away in a grandiose manner. This news quickly spread to other places. For a moment, everyone in the major cities was in a state of panic. They were deeply afraid that the city they were in would become the next target of Qin Feiyang and the others. When the emperor learned of this, he immediately ordered the Death God army to hide in all the major cities, ready to surround Qin Feiyang and the others at any time. Can we go to the Myriad Demons Valley now? Green Wind City. City Lord's mansion backyard. The madman laughed. Don't worry. After 2 days, I'll activate the concealment technique and send you there. It will be safer this way. Qin Feiyang laughed. Okay. 2 days isn't too long. The madman nodded, glanced around and asked, Is Ji Xiaowu okay? Don't say it. This time your vision is really good. The white-eyed wolf said. Are you kidding me? When has this father's vision ever been bad? The madman laughed proudly. At this time, they had already changed their appearances. The madman also changed his appearance. 2 days later, Qin Feiyang sent the madman to the Myriad Demons Valley. Although Dong Qian was no longer there, all the nearby ferocious beasts had been staring at the entrance of the Myriad Demons Valley, not daring to neglect in the slightest. However, no matter how they stared, they couldn't find Qin Feiyang and the madman, because the two of them didn't directly teleport to the Myriad Demons Valley. If they were directly teleported to the Myriad Demons Valley, even if they activated the concealment technique, they would still be discovered, because the space-time tunnel couldn't hide. In other words, although these ferocious beasts couldn't see Qin Feiyang and the madman, they could see the space-time tunnel. Therefore, they chose to teleport to a small city not far from the Myriad Demons Valley, then activated the concealment technique and quietly arrived at the Myriad Demons Valley. As for the coordinates of the small city, they went to the City Lord Mansion's guards to ask for it. Arriving at the Myriad Demons Valley, the madman couldn't wait to bring Qin Feiyang in. It is indeed more terrifying than the Yin demon force. The madman was very excited. These evil forces were like nightmares to other creatures, but in his eyes, they were like delicious food. Don't be in a hurry to absorb it. Wait until I leave. In addition, you are alone here, be more careful. After all, we don't know what the situation is in the Myriad Demons Valley. Qin Feiyang warned. When they went to the guards to ask for the coordinates, they also inquired about the situation of the Myriad Demons Valley, but none of the guards knew about the Myriad Demons Valley, and none of the guards had entered the Myriad Demons Valley. In other words, everything in the Myriad Demons Valley was unknown. Since it was unknown, there might be some dangers. Don't worry. With such a huge evil force, even if the Emperor comes, I will still have the ability to fight against him and the Emperor's sword without using my origin force. The madman laughed. To him, just like what the inner demons said, this was heaven. If he were to fight here, his combat strength would increase by many times, because these evil forces were the source of his combat strength. Don't be careless. Also, you better enter the depths of the Myriad Demons Valley to absorb it. When you absorb it, try to be gentle and don't make too much noise. Qin Feiyang warned. Why are you so long-winded? Scram, scram. The madman waved his hand impatiently. His entire body was shrouded by the evil force, but it didn't affect him at all. Qin Feiyang was helpless. You are still impatient? Am I not concerned about you? Good intentions really didn't pay off. Immediately, Qin Feiyang turned around and quietly left the Myriad Demons Valley. What a good place. After absorbing all these evil forces, how powerful will the Myriad Demon's sword be? Even I don't dare to imagine it. The madman laughed, and like a ghost, he silently rushed into the depths of the Myriad Demons Valley. The evil force that made the heavenly Dao powerhouses feel fear was as docile as a sheep in front of him. Next, all the major cities of the Central Dynasty entered a state of war readiness. However, Qin Feiyang and the other two, one was cultivating in the Myriad Demons Valley, and the other two were in seclusion in the Black Tortoise world. The Sea Lion Demon King was also in the backyard, setting up a 5,000 years a daytime array to fuse the two inheritances. The reason why he didn't let him go to the Black Tortoise world was because he wanted him to stay outside and help Ji Xiaowu solve some small problems that couldn't be solved. In short, only when there was a particularly serious situation could he go to them. Otherwise, he would go to the Sea Lion Demon King. Time passed day by day. In a large hall, above, Dong Qingyuan sat majestically with a gloomy face. Below, 10 figures sat on both sides in order. Each of the 10 cultivators was emitting an immeasurable aura like a vast ocean. 3 of them were familiar faces. They were Dong Qian, Dong Kuan, and Dong Yeming. Dong Qian and the other 2 were the commanders of the 10th, 9th, and 8th teams respectively. The other 7 people could sit side by side with them. Without a doubt, they must be the commanders of the other 7 teams. Legion Commander, 10 commanders. This was the absolute highest level of the Death God Legion. Every one of them was in existence with great power and influence. But at this moment, whether it was Dong Qingyuan or the 10 commanders, they all lowered their heads in silence, their brows tightly knitted together. What do they want to do? Why didn't they do anything after slaughtering Snow Bear City? It's already been 2 months. Finally, Dong Kuan couldn't bear it anymore, his hands pounding the armrest of the chair as he roared. His voice was like a bell, deafening. The other 9 commanders also couldn't help but raise their heads, their eyes filled with killing intent and anger. Especially Dong Yeming. The 10th team was almost completely annihilated. This was simply a disgrace. Dong Qingyuan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Even if they don't do anything for 2 years, 200 years, or 2,000 years, we can't let our guard down, let alone 2 months." After fighting with them a few times, he already had some understanding of the character of Qin Feiyang and the others. They were shrewd and good at scheming. Once they let their guard down, they might encounter a disaster. Are they trying to compete with us in patience? Or are they plotting something? I really don't understand. A woman in a fiery red dress whispered. This woman was about 25 or 26 years old, with a beautiful face. Not only was she in a long dress, but even her waterfall-like long hair and eyes were as red as fire. Her entire person was like a cluster of burning flames. If we could understand it, we wouldn't have such a headache. Dong Qingyuan shook his head, then looked at Dong Yeming and said, "This time, you've made a big mistake." Hearing this, Dong Yeming's body suddenly stiffened. "Although I know that it's not your fault, but Qin Feiyang and the others are too difficult to deal with, and you're also a victim. After all, the loss of the 10th team is an indisputable fact. Of the 10,000 members, only a little more than 1,000 are left now. The Emperor has already ordered me to remove you as the commander of the 10th team, and hand over the origin energy to me," Dong Qingyuan said. Dong Yeming clenched his hands tightly. "Sigh." Dong Qingyuan sighed and said, "I don't want to do this, but this is the Emperor's order, and I dare not disobey. Hand over the origin energy." Dong Yeming took a deep breath and took out the origin energy. Looking at this origin energy, Dong Qian and the other commanders couldn't help but have a look of desire in their eyes. However, Dong Qingyuan didn't give it to anyone, but he took it himself. Then he looked at Dong Yeming and comforted him. "Don't be discouraged. The Emperor only removed your position as the commander. As long as you can make great contributions in the future, I believe that the Emperor will definitely put you in an important position again. Chapter 44-56. I only have one thought in my mind right now, and that is to kill Qin Feiyang and the others. Dong Yiming clenched his fists. Although the other 9 commanders didn't say anything, he knew that they were laughing at him in their hearts. After all, the 10 commanders didn't get along well with each other. Therefore, in his opinion, killing Qin Feiyang and the others was the only way to wash away this humiliation. If you can really kill them, not only will you be reinstated, the Emperor might even reward you with a Pinnacle Dominator Divine Weapon. Dong Qingyuan smiled. A Pinnacle Dominator Divine Weapon? Dong Yiming's eyes flashed with desire. A Pinnacle Dominator Divine Weapon was extremely tempting to anyone, including the commanders of the Death God Legion. This was because a Pinnacle Dominator Divine Weapon was equivalent to 1,000 low-level Dominator Divine Weapons. For those who didn't have 3,000 incarnations, a Pinnacle Dominator Divine Weapon was invincible. No, even a high-level Dominator Divine Weapon was invincible, let alone a Pinnacle Dominator Divine Weapon. Dong Kuan glanced at Dong Yiming, then looked at Dong Qingyuan and asked, "Should we disband the 10th team or?" Of course we should disband it. There are only a little over 1,000 people left. Although the other 8,000 people are still alive, they have been stripped of their ultimate intents and are useless. What's the point of keeping it if we don't disband it? Before Dong Qingyuan could say anything, the other commanders all spoke up. A little over 1,000 people isn't weak either, okay? Hearing this, Dong Yiming glared at the commanders. Although there were only a little over 1,000 people, all of them had grasped the will of the Great Path. This lineup was enough to dominate the 4 great continents. Dong Yiming, are you talking in your sleep? Our 10 teams have at least 5,000 people. What's a little over 1,000 people? Dong Kuan sneered. Dong Kuan, from your tone, are you looking down on the 5,000 people in my first team? The woman in the fiery red dress suddenly turned to look at Dong Kuan. Her flame-like eyes flickered with a ferocious light. This was because she was the commander of the first team. Although the first team only had 5,000 people, every one of them had grasped the ultimate intents of the law of life and death, and the law of light and darkness. It could be said that, although the first team had fewer people, they were the strongest. Dong Yuerong, don't talk nonsense. Who dares to look down on your first team? I'm just making an analogy. Dong Kuan said indifferently. But your analogy really pisses me off. Dong Yuerong stared at Dong Kuan. Although she was a woman, the domineering aura she exuded was completely above Dong Kuan's. However, Dong Kuan wasn't willing to be outdone. He smiled faintly and said, "You can't take a joke? All right then, if you're not happy, what do you want?" "Enough!" Dong Qingyuan shouted angrily. "You're still fighting among yourselves at a time like this? If you have the energy, you might as well go find Qin Feiyang and the others." One had to admit that Dong Qingyuan was quite imposing. As soon as he spoke, the 2 of them became obedient. Naturally, the 10th squad cannot be disbanded. However, Dong Qingyuan's eyes flashed viciously as he said this. He looked at the door and said expressionlessly, "Lu Yunfeng, Lu Yuntian, come in." Lu Yunfeng, Lu Yuntian? The 10 of them were shocked. They hurriedly looked at the door and saw 2 young men striding into the main hall. The young man walking in front was dressed in white and had a faint smile on his face. He looked extraordinary. The young man walking behind him was dressed in a blood-red robe and had a smile on his face. However, this smile was full of malevolence and hostility, as if a demon king had returned. The 2 of them were the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Dong Qingyuan was very displeased with the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. He was also very unwilling to let them enter the main hall. However, there was no other way. This was the Emperor's order. Dong Yiming and the others looked at the inner demons and Lu Yuntian with fear in their eyes. In the past, they naturally wouldn't take the inner demons and Lu Yuntian seriously. After all, they were commanders. Not only were they powerful, but they also had a group of loyal subordinates. However, when the inner demons and Lu Jiajin successively displayed their terrifying strength, especially when they saw the 2 of them coming back from the 4 great continents, and almost forcing Dong Qingyuan to self-destruct. They couldn't get rid of the shadow in their hearts. That's right. Although the inner demons and Lu Jiajing didn't kill Dong Qingyuan when they returned to the Central Dynasty, they did force Dong Qingyuan into a desperate situation. If it weren't for the emperor, Dong Qingyuan might have really self-destructed. It seems that you don't like us? The inner demons glanced at the group of people and laughed. Then he walked up to Dong Yuerong and said, "Give up your seat." What? Dong Yuerong's eyes were suddenly filled with anger. Although you're very powerful, you're still a junior. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me, the commander of the first team? I don't want to repeat myself. The inner demons narrowed his eyes. Dong Yuerong clenched her hands together. Her fiery eyes were emitting a bone-chilling aura. You're really courting death. As the inner demons finished speaking, a terrifying murderous aura roared out. Dong Kuan and the others, who were gloating, suddenly changed their expressions. A sense of fear rose in their hearts. Yuerong, it's just a seat. Give it to him. Dong Qingyuan said. Dong Yuerong glanced at Dong Qingyuan, then looked at the inner demons again. She snorted, got up, walked up to Dong Qian, and took out a chair to sit down. The inner demons sat on the chair casually. He turned to look at Dong Yumming and said contemptuously, "You've been stripped of your position as the commander, and you still have the nerve to sit here? Get out of my way and stand there." You. Dong Yumming was instantly enraged. Although he had been stripped of his position, no matter what, he used to be the commander of the Death Army. How dare he not give him face? Didn't you hear me? I told you to get out of my way. The inner demons shouted. He was really arrogant and domineering. But the point was he was so arrogant that Dong Qingyuan and the other commanders couldn't do anything to him. Wasn't that infuriating? Dong Yumming suppressed his anger and got up to step aside. Lu Jiajing smiled calmly and sat down on Dong Yumming's seat. Looking at the two of them, Dong Yumming was almost driven crazy. At the same time, his hatred for Qin Feiyang, the lunatic, and the white-eyed wolf became even stronger. Because if Qin Feiyang and the others hadn't destroyed the 10th squad, he wouldn't have fallen into such a sorry state. The inner demons looked at Dong Qingyuan, who was sitting on the chair, and said lightly, "Hurry up and announce it. Don't waste our time." Dong Qingyuan desperately suppressed the anger in his heart. He looked at Dong Yuerong and the others and said in a deep voice, "The emperor has appointed Lu Yunfeng as the commander of the 10th squad, and Lu Yuntian as the deputy commander of the 10th squad. The 10th squad will be reorganized." What? Hearing this, Dong Yuerong and the others stood up in shock. Their faces were full of disbelief. Dong Yumming clenched his fists so tightly that his palms were bleeding. He was actually here to replace his position. Preposterous. Dong Qingyuan sighed inwardly. He looked at the 10 of them and said, "You didn't hear wrong. This is the emperor's order." The 10 of them looked at each other and could only accept this fact. The inner demons looked at Dong Yumming with a hint of mockery in his eyes. He looked at Dong Qingyuan and said, "Since I'm now the deputy commander of the 10th squad, does that mean I have the right to punish anyone in the 10th squad?" "Of course." Dong Qingyuan nodded. "Good. Kill all those who were deprived of their ultimate mysteries by Qin Feiyang." The inner demons said. "What? Are you crazy?" Although they were deprived of their ultimate mysteries, they didn't make any big mistakes. Why do you want to kill them? You can totally make them leave the Death God Army. Dong Yumming said angrily. Dong Qingyuan, Dong Yuerong, and the others also glared at the inner demons. These members of the Death God Army had worked hard even if they didn't make any contributions. How could they be killed just like that? Besides, they went against Qin Feiyang and the others for the sake of the Divine Kingdom, and for the sake of the Emperor. That was why they were deprived of their ultimate mysteries. They were loyal and worthy of praise. Logically speaking, such people should be taken good care of. So many people went to the 4 great continents, and they even had an origin force. In the end, they still ended up being wiped out. This shows how useless they are. I don't keep useless people here. The inner demon sneered. In fact, he was just looking for an excuse to get rid of these hidden dangers. Because these people were deprived of their ultimate mysteries by Qin Feiyang and the others. They must hate Qin Feiyang and the others to the core. If they were left alive, they might become a disaster in the future. But there's no need to kill them. Isn't it a good choice to send them home to retire? Dong Qingyuan frowned. Yo, Sir Legion Commander, why are you suddenly so kind? You weren't like this when we were in the 4 great continents. You were so cruel to us. The inner demons looked at Dong Qingyuan with a strange smile. His eyes were full of mockery. He said lightly, "Put away your hypocritical face. It's disgusting to look at it." "How dare you?" Dong Yuming shouted. "You are now the deputy commander of the 10th team, and Sir is the Legion commander of the Death God Legion. You must abide by the Death God Legion's rules and respect the Legion commander." Slap. But before he could finish, a crisp slap was heard. The inner demon stood up and landed in front of Dong Yuming in an instant. He slapped Dong Yuming, and a striking handprint immediately appeared on Dong Yuming's face. This made Dong Yuming instantly lose his mind. With red eyes he roared, "I'll tear you apart." "Is that so?" The inner demon smiled coldly. The ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death appeared out of nowhere. A terrifying aura swept in all directions. Dong Qingyuan's expression changed. He hurriedly took out the origin force to protect the main hall. His eyes were extremely gloomy. How dare they make a move here? They really didn't take him seriously. Dong Yuming panicked. Looking at the kingdom of life and death behind the inner demons, it was as if he was looking at the abyss of death. His body and mind could not help but tremble. "Do you have the ability to do so?" "Kneel!" The inner demons roared. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind. He was like a demon god descending to the world. The kingdom of life and death pressed forward. Dong Yuming's legs went weak, and his face turned pale. He could not help but kneel at the feet of the inner demons. Chapter 44-57. So powerful. The power of the kingdom of life and death is simply breathtaking. Not only Dong Yuming, but Dong Yuerong and the other 8 could not help but tremble. They had tried very hard to suppress the fear in their hearts, but they just could not control it. It was as if they were facing a god. Dong Qingyuan's face was extremely gloomy. Since entering the main hall, this person had been arrogant and did not take him, the Legion commander, seriously. "You dare to jump in front of me with this little ability? Believe it or not, I will kill you directly." The inner demons looked at Dong Yuming coldly. I'm sorry." Dong Yuming did not want to say these 3 words. But the oppression of the kingdom of life and death made him unable to control the fear in his heart. The moment he said these 3 words, he collapsed to the ground, completely losing his self-esteem and completely falling into the shadow brought to him by the inner demons. In the future, as long as he saw the inner demons, he would think of this scene and would never be able to forget it. Don't go too far. Suddenly, Dong Qingyuan could no longer tolerate the arrogance of the inner demons. The origin force in his hand blasted out, accompanied by a loud bang, and the kingdom of life and death was annihilated on the spot. Whoosh! In the face of the origin force, the inner demons were not afraid. Instead, they turned and stared at Dong Qingyuan, their eyes flashing with an astonishing fierce light. "Do you think you can be lawless with the true body of the Demon King, the law of life and death, and the dual will of heaven? Let me tell you, the reason why the Emperor asked Dong Yuming to give this origin force to me is to suppress you, restrain you, and make you behave." Dong Qingyuan laughed sinisterly. Haha. When the inner demons heard this, they laughed instead of being angry. "What are you laughing at?" Dong Qingyuan frowned. "I'm laughing at you for being too useless. You can only rely on the origin force to face me head-on. Without the origin force, you are even worse than a piece of trash." The inner demon's face was full of contempt. That gaze and that attitude showed that they did not take Dong Qingyuan seriously at all. Dong Qingyuan clenched his hands together tightly, making cracking sounds. If looks could kill, the inner demons would have been executed by Dong Qingyuan. It was obvious. Dong Qingyuan was furious at the moment. "However, even if you have the origin energy, do you dare to kill me?" The inner demons glared at Dong Qingyuan menacingly and sneered. "You are indeed the Emperor's confidant, but you are not even as strong as your disciples, let alone me. Do you think the emperor will allow you to kill me? The so-called disciples were Dong Hanzong, Dong Tianqian, Dong Ping, Dong Xian, and Dong Qin. This was an indisputable fact. Without the sovereign divine weapon and origin power, Dong Qingyuan was indeed weaker than Dong Tianqian and the others. This was because any one of the 5 domains could easily crush Dong Qingyuan. The reason why Dong Tianqian and the others respected him so much was because of Dong Qingyuan's importance in the emperor's eyes, and because Dong Qingyuan had taught them before they grew up. It could be said that without Dong Qingyuan's guidance, they would not have the strength and status they had today. Simultaneously, Dong Qingyuan was also the commander of the Death God Legion. If he gave the order, the entire Death God Legion would stand up without hesitation. The domains of Dong Tianqian and the others were very powerful, but in the face of the entire Death God Legion, they had no chance of winning. Therefore, the 5 of them respected Dong Qingyuan, but at the same time, they feared him. In the face of the powerful inner demons, Dong Qingyuan did not retreat for a while, because he really did not dare to kill the inner demons. One had to know. In the Central Dynasty, in addition to the inner demons in Lu Jiajin, there were also Dong Hanzong, these unparalleled geniuses. The strength of these people was not weaker than the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. But why did the emperor let the inner demons and Lu Jiajin be the commander and deputy commander of the 10th team, instead of letting Dong Hanzong and the others take over the 10th team? This was because of trust and high regard. The emperor valued the talents of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, their brains and their means. In other words, the emperor's appreciation of the inner demons and the others far exceeded Dong Hanzong and the others. At that time, when the emperor told him that Lu Jiajin and the inner demons would be the commander and deputy commander of the 10th team, his surprise was no less than that of Dong Yuerong and the others. He was very puzzled at that time. Why did the emperor make such an arrangement? The emperor told him on the spot that these 2 brothers had the talent to be great generals. Although Dong Hanzong and the others were talented and had heaven-defying means, compared to the brothers, they were still far behind. Think about it. Who was the emperor? The emperor was the son of the ruler of the divine kingdom. If even he said such words, then how could the inner demons be bad? Although Dong Qingyuan was very unhappy in his heart, he did not dare to go against the emperor's will. Why don't you make a move? The atmosphere in the main hall was extremely solemn. The inner demons were unscrupulous. This was his nature. He was never afraid of anyone. Even when he met the small beast and the ice dragon, he had the courage to face them head-on. As for Lu Jiajin, he did not say a word from beginning to end. He just looked at all of this indifferently. No one knew what he was thinking. However, Dong Qingyuan, Dong Yeming, and the other 10 people present, none of them dared to ignore his existence. Because this man had the strongest fighting soul, the Eye of Nothingness. And it was the Eye of Nothingness that had completed its evolution. Phew! At last, Dong Qingyuan took a deep breath and withdrew the origin energy. He looked at the inner demons and said indifferently, "Since you brothers are now in charge of the 10th team, then it's up to you." He really could not protect these 8,000 people. He did not really want to protect these 8,000 people. For him, these 8,000 people had lost their value. It did not matter whether they lived or died. The reason why he intervened was that he could not stand the inner demons baring their fangs and brandishing their claws in front of him. After all, he was the commander of the Death God army. He also thought that with this origin energy, the inner demons would definitely restrain themselves in front of him. But he never expected that in the face of the threat of the origin energy, not only did the inner demons not restrain themselves, but they became even more arrogant. He really could not understand. Why did the emperor think so highly of them? Because in his eyes, the inner demons had no other merits other than being arrogant and condescending. Following Dong Qingyuan's words, Lu Jiajin, who was sitting motionless on the chair, finally reacted. He stood up and smiled. Commanders, we'll take our leave first." After saying that, without waiting for Dong Qingyuan and the others to respond, he stepped forward and turned to leave without looking back. Looking at Lu Jiajin's back, the group of people seemed to have seen a god, integrated with heaven and earth, appearing ethereal. This temperament really made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. In the future, I hope everyone will take care of me. The inner demons looked at the group of people and laughed, then swaggered away. Preposterous, preposterous. They simply did not take us seriously. Commander, are you going to indulge them like this? Dong Kun was flustered and exasperated, his face full of anger. These two little bastards really deserve to be taught a lesson. It's not that I want to indulge them, it's the emperor. Dong Qingyuan sighed. Fortunately, he now had origin energy. Although he could not restrain the two, at least he did not have to worry about them killing him in the future. Why is the emperor doing this? Dong Hanzong, Dong Tianqian, Dong Ping, and Dong Xian are all members of the Dong clan, and their strength is comparable to theirs. Why is the emperor not nurturing Dong Hanzong and the others, but nurturing these two outsiders? The fat Dong Qian's face was full of doubts. No one can see through the emperor's thoughts. He naturally has his reasons for doing this, we can only obey. However, it's not that easy for these two brothers to reorganize the 10th team. Dong Yuerong sneered. Everyone could not help but look at Dong Yuerong. The prerequisite to joining the Death God Legion is to master the will of heaven. Now, apart from the Death God Legion, in the entire Central Dynasty, there are almost no powerhouses who have mastered the will of heaven except for the 10 direct descendants and the major direct descendants. But the 10 direct descendants are all our people. Plus, the people of the 10 direct descendants are living a luxurious life and would not be willing to join the Death God Legion. As for the direct descendants, as long as we give the order, would they dare to go against us and join the Death God Legion? Even if they dare, all the direct family clans together only have a little over 1,000 will of the heavenly Dao powerhouses. What can they do? Dong Yuerong's lips curled into a mocking smile. That's right. The will of heaven of the direct descendants is nothing to worry about. Even with the remaining 1,000 in the 10th team, there are only a little over 2,000 people in total. The 10th division with more than 2,000 people is nothing in front of our 9th division. Dong Kun could not help but sneer. Haven't you learned your lesson? Suddenly, Dong Qingyuan looked at Dong Yuerong and Dong Kun and said angrily. Ah. The two were surprised. Why was he suddenly angry at them? Although there are not many people in the 10th team now, don't forget that Lu Yuntian has the Demon King true body. He alone is equivalent to 3,000 people. Plus, he has the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death and dual will of heaven. To put it bluntly, his combat power alone is equivalent to half a team. If Lu Yunfeng's Eye of Void is added, I'm afraid that the strength of the two of them is enough to fight against an entire team. Dong Qingyuan said angrily. Hearing this, Dong Yuerong and the others trembled. Indeed, these two people could not be looked at with ordinary eyes. They were people who had heaven-defying means. If not for Dong Qingyuan's reminder, they would not have thought of this. Dong Qingyuan's eyes flickered as he looked at Dong Yuerong and said, It's time for your first team to replenish some fresh troops. Ah. Dong Yuerong looked at Dong Qingyuan in shock and frowned. But didn't you set the rule long ago that only those who have mastered all the ultimate meanings can enter my first team? Rules are dead. People are alive. We don't have to worry about the people of the 10 direct descendants, but the will of heaven experts of the direct descendants must not be allowed to enter the 10th team. Dong Qingyuan said in a deep voice. Dong Yuerong took a deep breath and nodded. I understand. I'll send people to the direct descendants now. No, I'll go personally. With that, she got up and opened a space-time passage to leave. Chapter 4458. Black Tortoise World. Inside the cultivation room, Qin Feiyang sat on a futon with a cluster of flames floating in front of him. It was the inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning of the law of nothingness. He was using this inheritance to comprehend the law of nothingness. In order to integrate this inheritance, he had to first comprehend the law of nothingness. In the past, he had also comprehended the law of nothingness, but because he entered the divine kingdom, there were too many things to solve, so he didn't make much progress. But this time, he had made up his mind to integrate the inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning of the law of nothingness before coming out of seclusion. If possible, he even wanted to integrate the inheritance of the law of light and darkness and the law of devour. This way, even if he completely mastered the 9 supreme laws, by then his combat strength would not only increase by 1 or 2 times. Of course, the ultimate profound meaning of the ordinary laws couldn't be ignored. When the ultimate profound meaning of the supreme laws were equal, the ultimate profound meaning of the ordinary laws would determine the odds of victory. For example, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy were both ordinary people who had mastered the ultimate profound meaning of the 6 supreme laws. If the two of them fought, it would naturally be a tie. But at this time, if there was another ultimate profound meaning of the ordinary laws, they would be able to suppress the other party. So, although the ordinary laws weren't very useful now, at the critical moment, they could still play a big role. Buzz. Suddenly, the divine voice stone rang, waking Qin Feiyang up. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, a trace of suspicion flashing in his eyes. He then took out the divine voice stone, lowered his head to check, and was stunned. How could it be Big Cousin? With the awakening of the divine voice stone, the phantoms of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin immediately appeared. Looking at the smiles on their faces, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but ask with a smile, "What good thing happened to make you so happy?" "Guess." The inner demons bared his teeth. "How can I guess?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "I also know that you definitely won't be able to guess. Now the two of us have officially taken over the 10th team." The inner demons smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang was bewildered. The inner demons had told Lu Jiajin about this when they met in Hanzhong City, but he didn't expect it to happen so soon. "We are already preparing to recruit new members," the inner demons said. "Where do we recruit members?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. To join the Death God Legion, one had to grasp the will of the heavenly Tao. This was a well-known fact. As for the Central Dynasty, excluding the Death God Army, there were only slightly more than 5,000 heavenly Tao experts on the surface. However, most of these people were from the 10 great clans. The direct family only accounted for a small portion. It was possible that there were such experts in the collateral families, but they were definitely few and far between. As such, it was basically meaningless for the inner demons and Big Cousin to recruit members. Furthermore, Dong Qingyuan had a grudge against the inner demons. Dong Qingyuan definitely wouldn't just stand by and watch the 10th squad under their command grow stronger day by day. In other words, Dong Qingyuan must have done something. When we recruit members, we don't necessarily have to look for those from the direct family. We can also look for the Demon King of the Kunpeng Sea region and the Beast King of the Sky Dragon Mountain Range. The inner demons smiled cruelly. Demon King? Beast King? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This was a good idea. There were a total of 10,000 Demon Kings in the Kunpeng Sea region alone. Although they had already killed hundreds of Demon Kings, there were still more than 9,000 left. It didn't affect them much. However, would the Kunpeng and the Dragon God let them go? After all, these Demon Kings and Beast Kings were the generals under the command of the Kunpeng and the Dragon God. This depends on our means. Furthermore, the reason why we are recruiting members is also for your sake. The inner demons smiled cruelly. For my sake? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He didn't quite understand these words. As long as they enter the Death God Army, as the commander and deputy commander, they will have to do whatever we tell them to do. When the time comes, we will find an opportunity to kill them. Won't there be a large number of ultimate profound inheritances of the strongest law in your pocket? The madman smiled cruelly. Good idea. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. If this plan succeeded, he would at least get tens of thousands of inheritances. Moreover, it was also equivalent to weakening the strength of the Central Dynasty, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. How is it? Our plan is not bad, right? The inner demons looked at Qin Feiyang proudly. Very good. Then you guys work hard and recruit more members. Also, be careful of Dong Qingyuan secretly causing trouble. Qin Feiyang smiled. Don't worry. Big Cousin has long seen through what he is scheming in his heart. He won't give him this chance. The inner demons sneered and asked curiously, "Where are you hiding now?" Qingfeng City. City Lord's mansion. Qin Feiyang said. Damn, ran to Qingfeng City again? You really are a sly one. The inner demon's mouth twitched. Qingfeng City was the place where Qin Feiyang and others first appeared, which was also the most dangerous place. According to common sense, they would never go to Qingfeng City again. But this guy just didn't play by the rules. Now no one would have thought that he was hiding in the City Lord's mansion of Qingfeng City. There is one more thing. The young City Lord of Qingfeng City, Ji Xiaowu, is deeply appreciated by senior brother Madman. If there is a chance, take care of him. Qin Feiyang said. Appreciated by Madman? The inner demons and Lu Jiajin looked at each other. This was really a bit unexpected. Although they didn't know Madman for long, they already knew Madman's character. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to enter his eyes. I have also observed that this Ji Xiaowu is indeed a talent. Unfortunately, he was born in the Central Dynasty. Qin Feiyang shook his head regretfully. It's really a sad thing. The inner demons laughed and said, All right, we will go and do our work first. You should hurry up and cultivate. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. After ending the communication, Qin Feiyang put away the transmission godstone with a smile on his face. He really didn't expect that the current emperor would trust them so much. This saved him a lot of trouble. Master Consecrator. Outside in the backyard. Suddenly, a hurried voice was heard. A maid ran over in a panic and looked at the gate of the courtyard. The Sea Lion Demon King walked out and frowned. What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry? He was in seclusion when he was suddenly woken up. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Master Consecrator, please calm down. I didn't mean to disturb Master Consecrator's meditation. I really have something urgent. The maid looked rather anxious, as if she had encountered something very bad. The Sea Lion Demon King looked at the maid, his expression eased, and said, Speak slowly. Young City Lord. He went to Fengyang City. The maid called out. Fengyang City? The Sea Lion Demon King was stunned. What the hell was that place? As long as it was a place he didn't know, it must be an ordinary small city. Ji Xiaowu went to such a small city. What was there to be anxious about? Maybe he just went out to relax. Master, don't you know? The maid looked at the Sea Lion Demon King suspiciously. Wasn't this Master Consecrator a good friend of the young City Lord's grandfather? Why didn't he even know the situation in Fengyang City? I don't know. Hurry up and say it. Don't be long-winded. The Sea Lion Demon King urged impatiently. The young City Lord's mother is in Fengyang City. The maid said. What? His mother is in Fengyang City? Isn't that a good thing? He must have gone to Fengyang City to see his mother. Why are you so flustered? The Sea Lion Demon King was puzzled. It seems that you really don't know the situation of the young City Lord. The maid sighed. What's the situation? At this moment, a voice sounded in the room. Qin Feiyang walked out quickly and looked at the Sea Lion Demon King, and the maid suspiciously. Aren't you in seclusion? The Sea Lion Demon King was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, I have something to tell you, but as soon as I came out, I heard you talking about Fengyang City. What's the situation? I don't know either. He said that Ji Xiaowu went to Fengyang City, and it seems that things are not good. The Sea Lion Demon King shook his head and turned to look at the maid, saying, Take a breath first and tell me slowly. The maid took a deep breath and looked at Qin Feiyang and said, This matter has to start from a long time ago. Hearing this, the Sea Lion Demon King immediately entered the room, brought a chair, and sat with Qin Feiyang, listening carefully to the maid's story. It turned out that Fengyang City was not a small city. In terms of scale, it was considered a medium-sized city, and the person in charge of Fengyang City was called Dong Daqian, the City Lord of Fengyang City. Moreover, he also had another identity, and that was the patriarch of the direct family. However, Dong Daqian's family was only at the bottom of all the direct families. But even if it was at the bottom, it was not comparable to the collateral families. Because in Dong Daqian's family, there were two powerhouses with the will of the heavens. And Dong Daqian had another identity. He was Ji Xiaowu's grandfather. That's right. Biological grandfather. Ji Xiaowu's mother was naturally Dong Daqian's biological daughter. When Ji Daxiong was young, he was also considered a talent. He used various methods to successfully capture the heart of Ji Xiaowu's mother. The two of them lived together, and soon gave birth to Ji Xiaowu. But Ji Xiaowu's mother knew that her father, Dong Daqian, would not allow her to marry a collateral family member. This was because the direct family looked down on the collateral family, just like how the direct family looked down on the direct family. In the eyes of the direct family, the collateral family members were third-rate untouchables. Dong Daqian, as the patriarch of the direct family and the city lord of Fengyang City, naturally would not allow his daughter to marry Ji Daxiong. Because for the direct family, this was a disgrace. Although Ji Xiaowu's mother had been trying her best to hide it from Dong Daqian, paper could not wrap the fire. When Ji Xiaowu was 10 years old, Dong Daqian suddenly appeared. At that time, Ji Daxiong was not the city lord of Qingfeng City. The family of three lived in seclusion in a small town, and lived a comfortable life. But with the arrival of Dong Daqian, their peaceful life was directly broken. When Dong Daqian saw that his daughter had not only privately agreed to marry a collateral family member, but also that the child was already so big, he was furious on the spot and wanted to kill the father and son. In the end, it was only when Ji Xiaowu's mother begged that Dong Daqian let them go. But the price was also very high. Ji Xiaowu's mother followed Dong Daqian back to Fengyang City, and was never allowed to see Ji Daxiong and Ji Xiaowu. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.